Well, good day everyone, hello and welcome as we return for more Race Room ranked action. This time we head down under New South Wales and of course to the legendary Mount Panorama. It is Bathurst, it is 2 hours of this treacherous 6.2 kilometre circuit that is going to be relentless up and over the mountain time and time again. Walls either side of you separated by the nearest of millimetres and of course the tight and twisty streets over the top of Mount Panorama. My name is Lewis McGlade and alongside me is of course Zach Sweeney and Darragh Thackett. No Ewan O'Leary or Cameron Roger for this broadcast. Those two kicked right out of the commentary booth. Zach Sweeney, hello mate, how are you doing? And I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Always is when we come to Bathurst. It's one of the most iconic racing circuits, not only for the Aussies, but also for the entire motorsport community, for the whole world, really. There's never really a boring moment when you come to Bathurst. And just look at that undulation. You're literally climbing yourself up and down a mountain. And, well, I guess that just speaks volumes as to the absolute challenge that is here at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, certainly so. And Darragh, this is your first time commentating, broadcasting, being a part of an event here on RaceRoom in the ranked side of things. It's something very, very different. It's something a lot of fun. Hopefully you're in for a bit of a treat, but Bathurst is a quality circuit for a debut if ever there was one.
Well, yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited for it. And yeah, Bathurst is like I said, it's one of the classic tracks. I mean, we've got a 34 strong grid as well, so hopefully there will be some action from this evening. And I'm very much looking forward to this.
Now, Zach, there is a very open strategy in this one. There's no mandatory pit stops. Obviously, some of the other ranked events that we've done, there have been mandatory pit stops throughout. These GT3 cars, they do tend to shred tyres, they do drink fuel, so it's nice to have an event where the strategy is completely up to the drivers to how they're going to split this 2-hour race.
100%. It's, to be fair, we have had quite a variety of strategy, regardless of the mandations and things like that. But without the limitations, the drivers are free to go with their wildest desires, how much they're willing to push the limits. I mean, in theory, a no-stop is possible, but you're going to be nowhere. So the general consensus might be to take tyres at your pit stop, do half and half, stretch the tank as long as it will go. There are so many different ways you can approach this race, and in all fairness, I'm just mostly interested as to which one's going to come out on top. And I'll be honest, I'm expecting 1, 2, maybe even 3 variations to still be competitive by the time we get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I did hear a bit earlier on the day that there was an attempt for a no tyres, no fuel stop throughout the race. It was done in a Callaway, so it is theoretically possible. We'll take a look though at the entry list because there are some big names on this one. Of course, we've got some of those more regulars, the likes that come out here. Cody Nikola Lavskovsky, Vigneron, got both Sven and Marvin Mackenberg in there as well. We'll let it roll through because you can see there was one a little further down, and the reason I'm going to bring up is because practice. Look at that driver on the right hand side, Julian Kunze. When it comes to esports stuff in the world of RaceRoom, Julian Kunze has been right towards the top for a large number of times. He's always been in that kind of like the higher president of esports racing here in RaceRoom. So to see him out here in the rank racing, it's going to be very interesting. And the reason why I brought him up is he did just top the practice session, which is just finished. You can also see some of the cars that people have taken, a decent spread on that. There, obviously, we're seeing a few BMW M6s out there. We're seeing a few Mercedes out there, Audi R8s. Obviously, there is a Callaway out there in the form of Mariusz Zabdir. What car would you pick, Darragh?
Oh,
that
you have really thrown me under the bus. I reckon. I haven't driven any of them. I reckon just purely
on looks.
I'd probably go with the McLaren. I reckon.
McLaren.
Personally, there's no real reason behind it, other than you've thrown me under the bus, and I'm making a very quick decision on this. Yeah, no,
that's fair enough.
No, don't worry. No, but yeah, there are quite a few. There are quite a few here that I would very, very happily take if given the chance.
Well, we're straight into the qualifying session. Here is Cody Nikola Latkovsky for a little run around this 6.2 kilometre circuit. Being in this qualifying session, we can see the times there that's already been set. Julian Kunze with a 2:02. Quite a decent gap over the rest of the field, but got to see what some of these are able to do. So onto this mountain section where it becomes a little bit claustrophobic. Zach, going into the cutting. But this is where you effectively hold a breath for around about 40 seconds, wrestling it over the top before you come out Forest Elbow and shoot down towards the chase.
100%. It really is the test of, driver, the balance between man and machine. Just look at the commitment you have to have. Look at how close he's getting. A bit of a tap to the barrier there, but once again, you dip downhill. You've got to try and tap that curb on the inside, and then this is really where you make your money. Dipping your way through Skyline, then the S's, all while you're braking, let's not forget. Then this big old dip in the track as well. It is just, well, in all fairness, quite literally, is a mountain of a circuit, and it is so tricky. But yeah, whether you're going to be purple in the face from holding your breath or purple in the second sector as you climb your way through, that again is based on, well, how good you are as you work your way through.
Yeah, got plenty of time in this qualifying session, being around about half an hour, as you can see, 22 and a bit minutes left of the session. You will also note that the track is empty outside of the present drivers that we're looking at here. They're in a private session. There is no slipstream to be picked up. That's great for qualifying. I mean, I'm sure you've done your fair few qualifying sessions in the world of sim racing. There's always that time of being blocked by someone else, having some track limits, having someone else distracting you. This is you and the track and half an hour to put the absolute best lap time down.
Yeah, and it's always a nice feeling, isn't it, when you just have you and the tarmac to try and find the fastest line that you can have. And I mean, with the practice session that you mentioned before that you Lincolns are topped, I mean, they would all have had a decent amount of track time already. So this is just trying to finely tune exactly where you can find every single little thousandth. I mean, we're seeing Mackenberg come through here towards Murray's, and he's near at the end of the lap. So he'll be trying to see if he can put in faster time than he's got so far of in that car, but I'm not too sure whether he can necessarily find a way to improve further, but he's got a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, you can see, by the way, that on the timing tower, there are numbers to the right-hand side of the time. Kind of just a little thing to touch on here as well. Obviously, this is a ranked event. The way the ranked system works, you might be kind of accustomed to it. If you watch this, you probably have given it a go every now and then. The number on the left, so the 1973 for Julian Kunze, that is his rating. That is effectively, through the races he's done, how strong he should be. The highest number should be the best driver. The lowest number should be the worst. All things being equal, and then the number to the right of that is the reputation. That's effectively the cleanliness of the driver and such over the racing, almost like a safety rating, etc. It's what's kind of grown very much over the last. I mean, Zach, we've commented on a lot of these ranked races, but here in what these one-off events, these ranked races where we do the Bathurst 2 hour, we do, of course, a few weeks ago you had a little bit of fun doing a Dubai race, and then we had a lot of this, the RaceRoom Ranked Championship as well. More on that in due course. It's really nice to see how this side of the platform has grown as time's gone on, as Cody Nikolakowski's gone to the top with a 2:02.0.
Not a bad lap time at all, and setting the benchmark. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of RaceRoom, it has been a very nice linear progression, from where we were a couple of years ago to now. I mean, it's not a completely different platform, but in terms of the online ranking system and the online event system, it is really good. And also with the outside coming in, like with the Rocket Race stuff, Formula 4 Esports Competition UK, when they come in and did all of that side of things, so there's such a bigger drive for competitive esports here on the platform, which I think is only a good thing, because of the when you get to the top end of RaceRoom esports, you're getting what you pay for, really. You're getting the absolute best drivers hurtling their way around some of the best circuits in the world and some of the best combinations of cars as well, like with Dubai with the new KTM and the new McLaren as well. You're always getting some of the best things, and I do like that progression, and I think it is always onwards and upwards from here, not only from the rank side but also from the content side. I think RaceRoom is, with each step that it takes, it's always a step in the right direction. Obviously,
a new GT3 onto the market in the near future. We'll be saying goodbye to this machine. Sadly, I do quite like the BMW M6, but the BMW M4 is on its way onto racing. By the way, speaking of the Rocket Racing stuff, Formula 4 Esports Competition UK, which yes is a long name. Shout out to Monica Bolton-Ramos, who, by the way, I did bump into at Silverstone last week. She's doing quite well, so fingers crossed to see her out in British Formula 4, as well as Deegan Fairclough, who's been absolutely smashing it in British Formula 4. Yes, there is two sides to the smashing it. Other, the slightly more penalty side, but the more in the sense of he's actually been absolutely rapid. Focusing back though on this session at hand, we did see Cody Nikola Latkovsky improve to that 2:02.0. Julian Kunze did actually improve by 0.004 of a second. I've just seen Colin Blankenberg's gone through the first sector purple, up by nearly 1/10 of a second. Also, Sven Makabeg, who's a couple of positions ahead of where we're looking at here with D'Amico, has gone with a decent time through that second sector. D'Amico's about 0.5 off of Sven Makkenberg's time in that middle sector, but it does seem as though very quick times coming in from Colin Blankenberg. That's just kind of how it goes, I guess, Darren. It's a qualifying session. Everyone's going to be improving as Sven Makkenberg goes to fourth.
There are purples everywhere on the timing sheets at the moment, but it's always with Bathurst. It's so difficult to put the lap together up over the mountain, back down the mountain, and down the long Conrod Straight. But it is interesting to see Latkovsky there going faster than he was already gone before, which is a 2:02 flat. We'll have to see if he's the first man into the 2:01s, but he's only got a couple more corners to go.
I think we will need to see. We'll watch Cody Nikola Latkovsky come through the final sector, but coming down towards the chase now will be Colin Blankenberg, and I do believe he's on actually a really, really solid lap time at the moment. Let's see Latkovsky then out of the final corner. Can he break the 2:02 barrier and head into the 2:01s? The answer is just about a 2:018. Fantastic lap time for the Macedonian, who crosses the line to move even further clear at the front. It seems as though these tyres can do a couple of laps. With 17 minutes left of the session, there is plenty of time. Here comes Blankenberg, Zach.
Indeed. So what can he do? It's a good first sector, good middle sector as well. Has he carried that momentum through? Unfortunately not. And still about a quarter of a second off the Macedonian. Huge lap time though from Blankenberg. Able to at least get himself provisionally onto the front row. Julian Kunze as well, top in the practice session, coming into this qualifying session. All guns are blazing. Purple to the first sector, green to the middle sector. That means he's up on his own time, not quite quicker than the overall best time of this session though. Into the chase, of course. And well, this is exactly where the whole lap comes together. It's where the pressure of a good lap really starts to nail on you, and you either thrive under it or you crack under it. But one more corner left to go for Kunze. Can he get himself onto provisional pole?
Yeah, out of Murray's up towards the line. Kunze's trying something here, but I get the feeling that final sector from Latkovsky was pretty solid. Goes to second, 1/10, just over 1/10 off of Latkovsky's time. But Kunze showing some decent speed. Let's see what Zeman might do across the line. I think there's going to be no improvement there. As much as I think it shows purple in the first sector, I think it might actually be an invalidated lap time somewhere in that first sector, potentially running wide at the cutting, because you could see when we looked onto them, they didn't have a time in that first sector. I think it's more in that vein. Pretty calm as we head towards the end of the first half of this qualifying session. Still plenty of time to get their laps in, but as we all know, with these kind of sessions, the more the time ticks down, the more pressure you have for those final couple of laps.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with the drivers that are further down that order at the moment that may feel like they've got a little bit more pace in them, it's going to heat up a little bit for them towards the end of the session, knowing that they've got to find that time in, well, there's only 15 minutes left. And this is quite a long lap. I mean, we are looking at 2:01 for the fastest time. So it is quite a long lap. There are less opportunities to set that fastest lap. But Latkovsky really is showing some real pace at the moment, and he will hope to keep that P1 but by the end of the session.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, I don't think there's going to be any major improvements from D'Amico this time. Really, Felipe is going moderately fast, and I believe is heading down Conrod now, so we'll be heading down towards the chase. Let's see if D'Amico might actually improve on this time. I don't think there is going to be anything too major unless this final sector is phenomenal. We'll hit the beam to finish the lap time, and of course, no improvement there. But sometimes just staying out on the track. I've always said this kind of thing when it comes to qualifying sessions like this. Honestly, turn off the timesheets. Turn off all of your deltas, all of that kind of stuff. Just go out there, stick some fresh tyres on, stick a low amount of fuel on, and just get out there and turn some laps. If you nail a lap time, it's going to be fast whether you got the timesheets up or not.
You know whether or not you're on a good lap. You can feel whether or not you're on a good lap. You don't need numbers on a screen to tell you. And all realistically they do is distract you. You're better off being in the groove with things and, feeling the car, feeling the track, not constantly going into each corner as Mikovic moves his way up into 6th place. But you're better off just waiting until the end of the lap to see where it puts you, rather than going into each and every corner staring at that delta thinking, oh, did I gain a tenth, did I lose a tenth, what have I done? And by the end of it, it's just a case of, well, you spent too much looking at the timing sheet that you didn't actually manage to go through the corner correctly, or the pressure of you being half a second up on your time has gotten to you and you've bottled it completely. So always a good thing to sort of just block everything out, go with the senses, go with your instincts. And well, it seems that quite a few people are following that advice, because we're seeing some really quick lap times being put down.
Yeah, we did see Marvin Mackenberg come across the line and move into 5th. To confirm, clearly when they have that purple sector, it doesn't. I'm not sure it means they've gone faster in that first sector, but I think there might be something in there with the timing beam, because there was obviously no indicator as to whether he was up or down in that first sector on the plus minus, but it was just purple. But it clearly wasn't invalidated lap time, because Marvin Mackenberg went to 5th. So a decent improvement there from the Marvin of the Mackenberg. Sven just one position behind, not going in the same car, so splitting pinions there. D'Amico, I think, has got one more corner left to go and is looking pretty tasty in the first and second sector. Not challenging for pole, but could well move somewhere inside the top 5. So potentially you might see that Ferrari in 9th position roll up the timesheets, and there they go, up towards 6th as Gerhardt struggles a little bit through the cutting. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to struggle over the mountain. That's the nature of this track, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's so difficult. I mentioned it just a minute ago. It's so difficult to nail the lap. I mean, we've just seen Kunze set a slower first and middle sector, but just improve the time by the end. He's only now 35 thousandths behind Latkovsky's time. It just shows how difficult it is to just nail a lap together completely. I mean, Kunze looked just to be up, but he's disappeared off of the track. But Mackenberg has set a purple first sector. We're looking at him now. He's looking to have a lot under him as he comes over towards Skyline and down the hill through the S's again. Ooh, yeah, a little bit of a... Yeah, he's gone off, so that'll be a really bad for him. Yeah, but but it just shows, isn't it, that he can set that purple first sector, but it's so difficult to nail the lap together.
Yeah, I remember I was doing a Bathurst 12-hour on a different platform a couple of years ago, and I remember getting a setup. No, Zach, I'm not going to talk about my the time getting through the entire race with 0 instants. Not talking about that, don't worry. But we did a race, and I got sent a setup by an Australian driver. His name's Nick Foster, who is a rapid real-world driver. And he sent me a setup for a BMW M4. And I remember going over the top with it. I had one snap of oversteer, completely lost confidence, and was like, nope, no, not touching that setup again. This is such a confidence-based track, Zach. You need to have that confidence. Whether or not the setup that you have on is the fastest, or whether the car you have is necessarily the fastest, if you are confident with it, that is worth its weight in gold.
100%. It's all about potential of what you can eke out of the car. Say, for example, the Audi is quickest with Latkovsky, being on pole position at the moment. It's all good having the Audi as the quote-unquote fastest car, but if you jump into the Audi and all you're doing is putting the power down and having a nice on full lock drift as you go through every traction zone, you're not eking out the potential that the car has. You're only getting 60-65% of what you could get out of the car. Say, for example, you jump into the Ferrari and it's like, oh, I really like the Ferrari, I feel really stable with it, and you can eke out 80, 85, 90% of what the car can do. You, over the course of the race, are going to be much better off, because, well, it's a car you're accustomed with. Not only can you get more pace out of it because you feel more comfortable with it, you're also going to have that consistency that is going to allow you to get your way through the race without smacking into every barrier you see. And also with that, you're probably going to save not only your own race, but also the race of other people. To spin down the mountain is probably one of the worst places to do it, and if you're in a car that's not exactly tuned to you or very comfortable to you, very foreign and alien to you, again, it's just putting not only your race but everyone else's race is in danger. So I think car choice and also how you tweak the setup is mightily important.
Yeah, no, I have been backwards down the mountain. I was assisted by one of our glorious members of the RaceRoom community, Mr. Robert Wiesenmuller. Thank you very much. He did send me around in a Formula 4 in the DDF race of his 1,000 subscriber event. Obviously, he's got a lot more than that these days. But yes, I got sent around by Robert Wiesenmuller. So thanks, mate. He's busy today. It's fine. Cody Nikolatkovsky's gone fastest in the first sector, by the way, as we see Zeman come down in towards that infamous chase. Let's see what Latkovsky can do then over the mountain. Improving by around about half a tenth of a second, which in the first sector is mega. It's just about nailing this middle sector, and particularly for him, the final, because I think his final sector was absolutely out of this world. And I've got to say, Julian Kunz is also running a pretty tasty time right now. Little wide there through the elbow, and I think this lap time is done for Latkovsky. He'll still have plenty of time left to go. Here's Julian Kunz, Dara. Let's see if there's going to be any improvements from him at the moment. Kind of hovering around about a tenth off, I think. So bringing it back in a little bit. If he gets a decent final sector, could be challenging for pole here.
Yes, he could be, but also remember that the last lap that he had set, he set two slower first two sectors and then improved in the third, so he might have to find a little bit more in this final sector if he wants to take the time off of Latkovsky. I think he needs about 800ths in this final sector on his previous time to put himself onto provisional pole. And as he comes across the line, let's see if he does it. No. I don't think he has. No, he hasn't. Just missing out. I think he went about 300 or 400 slower in that final sector.
Yeah, indeed, just losing out. And again, by the way, just want to remind everyone, particularly for those just joining us here on RaceRoom for the very first time, with it being this type of session, qualifying, I say it every time we're in a qualifying session, when that timer hits 0, the session is done. We are over. We are out of here. So if it takes you a couple of laps to bring your tyres into the window, well, you've got to get out there now and try it. Thankfully, you don't have to do an outlap, Zach. You can you're effectively your outlap starts on the exit of the chase. You go through Murray's and then begin a lap time, courtesy of it being this type of session. But still, you know, that can be added pressure. By the way, Blankenberg, mega middle sector, half a tenth up on Latkovsky's.
Very, very good middle sector. He's a quarter of a second off at the moment, but he's got the final third of the lap, and that's really where the pressure starts to hit you. We'll track him as Latkovsky goes just a little bit quicker to the first sector as well. So it is definitely these three drivers of Cody Latkovsky, Julian Kunze, and obviously Colin Blankenberg as well, pushing each other to the absolute limits. Sven Mackenberg also in the mix. You've got the top five separated by just over 4 tenths of a second. So these guys are absolutely giving everything they can. Here's the German into the final corner. We'll wait and see if it's good enough for provisional pole into the latter stages of this qualifying session. Is he going to make the jump all the way to the top? No, he's not. It was a very slow final sector.
Yeah, that was not quite ideal. And here comes Cody Nikola Latkovsky then through that second sector. Oh, okay, this is a pretty impressive lap time coming in from the Macedonian. A reminder, of course, that he did win this event last year. So, yeah, he's got precedent on the mountain. And once again, continuing to look very strong on Conrad Straight with that V10 roar of the Audi R8 going into the chase, using all that road on the left-hand side, flicking it through that right-hander, the fastest corner in Australia motorsport into the chase itself, out through that final sector. Is this going to be an improvement from Cody Nikola Latkovsky? He currently has the benchmark with a 201.899. He's the only one into the 018. So, of course, Julian Kunz's with a 201.9. Let's see if there is going to be any further improvement as Latkovsky comes to the line, as he hits the beam. It is not actually an improvement. A 201.910. Not enough.
No, it wasn't enough. And also, I mean, we were looking at the timing there. I mean, it was like a Christmas tree being lighting up with Kunze and Blankenberg going faster, but they've also had to back out of the time. So all three of the top three not able to set another lap time as we're getting to the last few minutes. But I've just seen Sven Mackenberg has just gone fastest through that first sector. And I mean, if he can hook it up, we just mentioned, I think Zach mentioned the top three, Latkovsky, Kunze and Blankenberg, but Mackenberg looks very keen to join them at the moment.
This could be very interesting. Let's take a look at the second sector on board with Sven Mackenberg. Wonder if out a little bit wide there, heading towards McPhillamy Park. Too wide. In fact, I did kind of wonder that. The thing is, in this kind of session, whilst you might think there's a lot of lap time being bailed from here, qualifying and racing around Bathurst, two very different things. Yes, it is a tricky track to overtake as Zayman moves up to 17th position. It's kind of one of those ones that you know, obviously rewards consistency. If you're qualifying in sort of like that 5th, 6th, 7th kind of region, you can absolutely win this race, mostly based on survival, Zach.
100%. You know, getting to the end here at Bathurst is a challenge in of itself. So keep your nose clean, get, 0 incident points over the course of the race, and you might actually find yourself doing quite well. But also with that, we were talking just before qualifying got underway in terms of the strategy. Let's not forget, you don't have to do all of the hard work on the circuit. You can do some of it in the pit lane, playing that strategic game, maybe going a lap longer on your stint, a lap shorter on your stint, making the most of your situations and being aware of what's around you, how to play your cards right. Maybe if your qualifying pace isn't on top, you still have a whole 120 minutes, 2 hours of racing to get those moves done. So while qualifying is quite a nice thing to have, obviously being on pole position, you're not doing yourself any harm, but it's also not over until it's over if you're in that mid-pack.
Certainly so. Let's see what Rossi does out of the final corner. Is there going to be any improvement from Sebastiano Rossi? Currently in 19th position, moves up to 15th, being the third highest Big Bad Bentley taking on the mountain today. 3 minutes left in this session, so some drivers will be effectively starting their final lap times now. Peter Daniel being the second highest of those Bentleys coming down into this final complex of corners. Look at how tight this mid-pack is as well. Yes, especially on like 1.3 seconds off a pole. There's about 4 or 5 drivers all within that sort of tenth of a second. Daniel, the Czech driver, trying to get out of that and is unable to do so with a slightly slower final sector. I've just seen the first sector, though, from Cody Nikola-Latkovsky. He's gone a tenth and a half faster over the top of the mountain on the previous lap. Mega!
Yeah, he's absolutely flying through there, and he only has the Chase and Murray's to go on this particular lap to see if he can pull it off. I mean, like we've said, Blankenberg, he's a little bit slower through the middle sector, but he's only 300ths off and he's backed off that lap. But Latkovsky, if he can just hook up these final few corners, he really could set an absolutely blistering lap time right at the end of the session.
Is this going to be the slam dunk for pole? The benchmark has already been laid down with a 2:01.899. Could we move further into that? It's been a mega middle sector from Cody Nikola-Latkovsky. He heads towards the line. He is going to improve. It's not by as much as we would have expected, but still moved it to an 8:77. That is a very impressive lap time from the Macedonian. His session has come to a close, and now the gauntlet has been laid down for everyone else. But at the moment, there are only 2 drivers in the 2:01s. That is Latkovsky and Kunze, both whose session is over. They are both waiting for this timer to tick down. Rui Felipe, who finished on the podium here last year, is into the pit lane, just 5th position in qualifying for him, as Colin Blankenberg, Zach, is improving in the first sector.
He is indeed 6,000ths better than the overall purple sector time. So he is looking quick, but still a long bit of track left to go. 2 of the trickiest bits of the circuit, particularly that middle bit. And I think actually he's bailed. So that's it. And everyone that is on their lap, that is going to be their last laps. The session will conclude as soon as the time ticks 0. So I think Latkovsky, Kunze and Blankenberg, well, all of them are definitely safe in their top 3. I don't really think there's anyone else out there that can top them.
Christian Orban into the final complex of corners out wide, and that is definitely not going to count. And yes, he's going to Batman off the track. Christian Bale. Batman? No? Okay, it's fine. Into the pit lane he goes. Session over for quite a lot. I mean, these are things that they've been pushing around the circuit for half an hour. It's unlikely that your final improvement is going to come on that last lap time, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. Bozo will cross the line and go to 28th position, so a couple of positions improvement from the Hungarian. As the session comes to a close, Cody Nikola-Latkovsky will have pole position by about half a tenth of a second over Julian Kunze, Colin Blankenberg, Sven Mackenberg, Rui Felipe, Marvin Mackenberg, D'Amico, then Mikiovic, Gerhardt and Egan being the top 10. It has been a tough session that sees Latkovsky on the pole. We'll let the rest of these roll through. Mary Shabdir will be definitely one to take a good look at through this race, especially being, I believe, the lone Callaway on the grid. A couple of other ones down this area, down this kind of region. Peter Daniel, Guillaume Vigneron as well, he's a little further up. Of course, Bozo with that final improvement. Any one of these drivers, though, down the final parts of the grid, I'm not going to lie there. I still think, a top 10 is on the cards.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've mentioned it. Bathurst can be difficult to, have an exactly clean race. I mean, it's a 2-hour race. There's a lot of room for error there. I mean, qualifying, we saw a lot of drivers make a lot of mistakes. We didn't see too many improvements in the second half of the session on the banker lap times that were set early on. And yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to make sure that you have a perfectly clean race, and there will be opportunities for those guys further down the grid to work their way through.
Well, before we head into the race, we'll just step aside for a brief moment. Yes, indeed. Then back and ready to go racing. The Bathurst 2-hour RaceRoom ranked event is about ready to go. Qualifying is behind us. And we have this massive test ahead. 120 minutes again and again over the 6.2 kilometre circuit. My name's Lewis McGlade, Zach Sweeney, Darragh Thacker alongside me for commentary of this race. We'll touch this, Zach. I'm gonna throw you under the bus here. Who's winning?
Who qualified last? Let's go with them.
Who qualified last? Well, that's brave.
That is brave. It's Bathurst. I mean, you said it yourself. Survival is key. Now, in all seriousness, Cody Nikola Latovsky, after the Dubai 2.4 hour, was actually on for a victory had it not been for a disconnect issue about halfway through the race. So I think the Macedonian is fueled. Won here, obviously, last year. Pole position in a very tight qualifying session as well. I think he's angry and he wants to tame the mountain today.
I'm gonna ask Barry, even though I'm not 100. Obviously, these are all very new. It's just a guessing game for you.
Yeah, well, I can have a punt, can't I? I'll go with Colin Blankenberg.
Really? Well, good, because I was going to go with Julian Kunze. So there we go. We've all gone different ways. That is a good sign. Of course, the race will begin with that short charge down towards Hell Corner, the long run up Mountain Straight towards Griffin's Bend. It's a run which a lot of drivers in sim racing have done, have tried, have attempted, and have failed, because it is difficult even in itself, with 30 or more cars on that race up towards the mountain for that very first time. There will be casualties on that first lap. Let's take a look though as we go racing for the first time here in the Bathurst 2-hour in 2023. Decent start there from Cody Nikolakovsky to cover over Julian Kunze on the race through the first corner. Marvin Mackenberg out a little bit wide as they head through in the background looking for any dramas. There is none thus far, and it does seem as though Latkovsky could be under pressure from Kunze as we head up towards the mountain section, up towards Griffin's Bend, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's just trying to find their foot and find some space. You can see 2 wide, 3 deep in amongst the midfield there. Jostling for position, nearly 3 wide as well as they run their way through Griffin's Bend up the hill as you now start the ascend up the mountain. It's Cody Nikola Latovsky that's able to hang on, but look at this midfield fight. It's like about 32 cars all trying to find a bit of space in the opening laps. It's always going to be asking for trouble.
Yeah, and as they come up all the way through Griffin's Mount, Reed Park and Sulman Park, you can see a little bang on the wall there from Mackenberg as they come now through to the top of the hill. But Nikolai Latkovsky, great start for him, just keeps off Kunze towards Griffin's Bend, and he should be okay as they come down towards the first descent of the race.
You see Rui Felipe running out a little bit towards the barrier. The yellow flag out in the second sector, to be honest, kind of as expected. I think it's John Rose who's had a couple of problems up towards Sullivan Park and towards McPhillamy. Unfortunately, is what it is. We'll see Rossi, couple of switches though as they head through the dipper. As I think, out wide there, that will be, I'm going to say, I'm not actually 100% sure. I was going to say it's Vigneron, but I'm not sure it is.
Entirely sure.
Chevrolet Urso. Of course it would be.
The other one, the other Frenchman in the mid pack. Yeah, we. As now they're trying their absolute best to keep it all clean. Julian Kunze giving Cody Nikola Latovsky a bit of pressure in the opening moments, trying their best to bridge the gap side by side between Sven Mackenberg and Rui Felipe. The Audi R8 is able to get ahead as off this circuit. That's Luca D'Amico in the background. Or is it Marvin Mackenberg?
No, you're right the first time.
Yeah, it's nearly 3 wide though into that final corner, wasn't it? There as they start lap 2, but they're all filing out. I think that's going to be, is that Egan trying to make the move on Zabdir, or no? It's Egan. Zabdir making the move on McIntyre. I'm very sorry. But as they come through the first corner, I mean, it all singles out a little bit through there, but then you have to try and slipstream your way up towards Griffin's Bend. But they're all in a little bit of a line here at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, certainly so. Single file will be the name of the game after a lap or two. There will be a couple of moves coming in, though, as they look to the inside from Marish Zabdir trying to find his way past Marvin Mackenberg, though, as he's had a look, guess what? Egan's going to try and make his way through. A couple of squeezes, though, up towards the cutting as they head through this double left-hander. Again, avoiding the barrier, but some of these drivers are getting a little bit more racy. Marish Zabdir will be one of those. He's looking to try and make his way past some of this pack, going counter to what we would expect the Callaway strategy to be right now. But alas, looking plenty strong enough. There is a look at the pole, currently behind Marvin Mackenberg and Gerhardt at the moment, but they're losing touch of those towards the front. It looks like it's becoming a bit of a 3-horse race, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're just taking off in front, and to be fair, that was the consensus really in qualifying, the top 3, and well, the battle of the commentators as well. So they're all holding ourselves on their shoulders and trying to see who's going to come out on top. And Marius Zabdir following on with him. So far, so good, really, from the pole. The lone Chevy out there as well. So he's, flying the flag high and doing his absolute best. Did have a talk with him before the race, though. Not entirely too confident on his pace. But as we've said, Darragh, that's not really the be-all and end-all when it comes to Bathurst.
Not at all, because of course Bathurst can be so tight and twisty, but Zabdir is looking like he might try and make a move on Mackenberg here, flashing his lights as they come towards the chase. He might go for the inside line as they come through there, but he just thinks slightly better of it, and he might try again at some other point. A little bit wide though from Mackenberg through the end of the corner, and here comes Egan. Might look for the outside line, but they're just squabbling over position here. It's early on in the race. And yeah, they're not necessarily going to go for a big dive that could decide the race so early on.
Yeah, D'Amico might be ruining his earlier mistake. Marish Zabdir gets to the inside into Hell Corner, and there's a reason you don't really want to go for too many moves into this. It's called Hell Corner for a reason. Marvin Mackenberg fends him off just a touch with a bit of a squeeze onto that first apex. It is quite a large curb. You do not want to be mounting it in a GT3 car as they head up Mountain Straight. Marish Zabdir will get to the outside going through Griffin's Bend. This is a move that is possible, and it does seem as though the straight line speed, particularly with a bit of the slipstream as well from Gerhardt up ahead, this move can work. He gets to the outside of Griffin's Bend. He's gone out too wide, though. He's got mounted on that big curb on the outside and has lost out to Egan as well. So a costly mistake. But this is the nature of racing, particularly in GT3s these days, particularly racing at Bathurst. You've got to risk to go for a move, but you have to be ready that you're potentially going to lose a couple of positions in doing so. The top 3 clearing out because they aren't fighting. That's the big thing here, Zach, that when you don't fight, that's where the speed is. This fighting between this grouping, they're all feeling like they're losing time, and they're losing more time because they're trying to not lose too much time, if you get where I'm coming from.
Oh, absolutely. Even you can make sense sometimes, Lewis. So there we go. Sometimes. I guess it is your favourite circuit, so I can let you off in that regard. So you know what you're talking about sometimes. But yeah, I mean, they're doing the right thing. They know, the 2 around them, whether it's Kunze, whoever they're talking about, whoever we're on the perspective of, the other 2 around them are realistically the only people they're going to be or expecting to be in a race with. So why risk that by trying to fight with them? Work with each other. Get away from the rest of the pack, because it's so easy to fight, so much easier to fight against 2 cars rather than the other 30 on the field. So battle amongst yourselves later on. Use the early stage of the race to get away as much as you can. As here goes Ian Egan trying to move his way past Marvin Mackenberg. No moves into the chase so far, but that's the ideals of pack racing. You see it, as Lewis said, in so many different ideals and disciplines of motor racing, karting, GT3s, wherever you go. Pack racing is a different beast in of itself, and you really do have to be careful, because not only are you looking forward to attack, you've also got to be mindful of how your attack is going to influence the race behind, and how the racers behind you are going to use that to capitalize and move their way forward.
And definitely, I mean, and when you look at the top 3, like Kowski, Kunze and Blankenberg, you just seem that they're working together somewhat. I mean, they get a little bit close up towards Griffin's Bend, but they are working together a little bit with this slipstream off of Lakovsky. They are pulling away from Rui Felipe down Conrad Straight, back up the Mountain Straight. And they are really working together well, but you're totally right. The pack racing is so difficult to necessarily get right, and you want to make sure that you give as much as you take. You don't want to sit back too much, but you also don't want to attack too much because you'll lose far too much time to the cars in front of you. And so early on in a 2-hour race, you don't want to be losing seconds that you feel like you have to attain over the next 110 minutes or so.
I think though Kunze lost a lot of time there on the exit of Reed Park, potentially touched the curb there on the left-hand side, pushed out the rear of the car. You can see how much that BMW M6 is pushing even harder comparatively to Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Kunze's pushing here to try and keep up with the Macedonian. Blankenberg sat behind being like, please, mate, don't drop it, because if you drop it, I'm involved. And at the moment, whilst there is a lot of pace in this trio, I do feel that is coming from the locomotive of Cody Nikola Latkovsky, looking for back-to-back wins on the mountain here in the RaceRoom ranked event, the Bathurst 2 hour. Also, see that? Oh, that's interesting. That Julian Kunze did not use as much of the track going through the chase as basically everyone else. He didn't use that bit on the left-hand side, and I wonder if that's kind of also over the top. If there's a bit of mentality as well of like not. I kind of want to say not knowing how wide the car is, but that seems very odd for a driver of this quality, and also the speed. So I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I don't know, maybe. I mean, it is a wide car, but again, he's a racing driver. He's the top end of racing drivers. He knows how to make the most of the track that he's got. And not only with that, he'd also be looking at Cody Nikola Latkovsky and seeing like, oh, he's using a couple more feet to the left, so can I. But yeah, I don't know. He is close. He is staying with the Macedonian, and well, you know, sub a tenth at some point. So he definitely knows his way around the circuit and is definitely keeping him honest. But talk about the Macedonian Express. We've got the Mackenberg Express this time, with Marvin trying to keep Ian Egan, Mariusz Zabda, Luca D'Amico all at bay. And well, so far many have tried, but also many have failed. It seems that Marvin Mackenberg is just trying his best to feed those in behind him to the pack of wolves that he has created. If Ian Egan goes for a move, he's counting on Mariusz Zabda to launch a move on Egan and back him up a bit and trying to alleviate the pressure off himself. He is defending quite hard in order to keep that 7th place.
He is, but he's having to. I mean, he's lost a little bit of time to those cars in front. But with this little train of 4, we've got 4 nationalities, 4 different cars. One of the Ferraris, one of the Chevys. I think Zabda is the only Chevy, isn't he? And then Egan in that Aston. Unless my eyes are completely deceiving me. And the Porsche. Was I right? Was I right?
It's Bentley. You're
it's
almost
Bentley, yeah.
right.
Yeah, sorry, it's so small on my screen and I am wearing glasses, which aren't seeming to help very well. But either way, Egan is trying to close up. That slipstream is helping him. But then when it gets towards the end of the Conrad straight towards the chase, it's just about close enough to try and make the send. But it is so early on in the race that you don't really want to necessarily absolutely send it. But he does look like he's having a lovely slipstream here, but he does just back off into the into the little kink before the chase. But Zabda to the inside of the chase. Is he going to be able to pull it off? It's difficult to see if he will, but he's had a lovely run out of that corner, and I think he'll have the inside line for Murray, so should be able to have it. And D'Amico's coming up alongside as well.
Yeah, D'Amico sending it in because he's pretty popular in chat. Maybe a little bit too much though, as he sent it to the inside of Mariusz Zabda. Might actually lose out on the exit to Tina Egan once again. So D'Amico gave it a good go, bit off a little bit more than he could chew. This time he's going to try it to hell corner before taking a lot of curb on the left-hand side. Got to say, Mariusz Zabda's move on Egan was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm not going to mark you down. Don't worry. Bentley, Aston Martin. Let's be honest, both logos have wings. They're both British. Yeah, whatever. It's basically the same. Fine. That is the switch over then. So Egan getting once again ahead of D'Amico, and I get the feeling Mariusz Zabda now with a bit of space ahead should be able to pull away from this grouping before getting onto the rear of Marvin Mackenberg. I know it's not going to take that long for him to get there, and yeah, it is what it is. But I do get the feeling that he is a little faster than the group that he's in. Maybe he's just burning out his tyres a little bit more in doing so. Marvin Mackenberg's Porsche seems to be fast enough on the straights to keep them at bay. Did you see that attempt from D'Amico trying to go up in the sort of like the quarry up to Reed Park section? That was madness, and it clearly didn't work, and it's cost him a lot of time. Oh, maybe a bit more.
And off into Skyline as he kept it pointing the right way. I think he has, but in doing so has lost a couple of places to Daniel and Mikovic as well. So a treacherous moment, and his tyres are still a little bit dirty as he goes through the dipper. So Vigneron as well is eyeing up the move in that Mercedes, but again, not quite close enough. And I think it just speaks volumes about how difficult the mountain is. As quick as Luca D'Amico is, and as you know, as feisty as he's looking with his moves, he's being very, very brave. It just goes to show that you can't take a second to breathe. You can't get complacent, because as soon as you feel safe around Mount Panorama, that's when it strikes the most.
Oh, 100%. As well as Mount Panorama being one of those tracks where there is absolutely no runoff at all if you make a little mistake. I mean, you just saw that at the top of McPhillamy Park towards Skyline, that if you go a little bit wide, you're just going to be onto that gravel and grass, and you will lose quite a bit of time. I mean, I think we all saw pictures earlier today of Laguna Seca, where they've repaved some of the exits there, but they've not done that here, and so they've just got to be careful of making sure they stay completely within track limits, because either there's a wall or there's gravel around here, isn't there?
Yeah, certainly. So battle's a bit further behind. Red Eye versus Freigang for the 29th penultimate position. John Rose, after his issues, also involved in that fight. Had issues on the very first lap of this race. The Mercedes rears the shot. Yes, I did see those photographs of Laguna. Did you use it, Zach?
Disgusting.
It's
disgraceful.
Awful. It is true. Like
Yeah.
I was fuming. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't even like Laguna Seca that much, but I was fuming, absolutely fuming. Look at this, Mikiewicz and Daniel side by side up through the cutting. Could be good for the big bad Bentley to make its way through. Potentially D'Amico as well. He's tried going up through this section before. He looks once again, but alas, that is not going to work, and it could allow Guillaume Vigneron to get his way past if he's not careful of the feisty Italian. I've got to say, I did get a message from Lino as a bit of an understanding as to why Julian Kunz is potentially not using that run over the left-hand side of the chase, which is an apt point, which is that little patch on the left-hand side going into the chase. A GT3 doesn't need to use it. They've got enough downforce to not need it. But let's be honest, boring. Absolutely, you've got to use it. It's there. It's got to be used. It's so cool to flick it left before you throw it through the right hand, is it?
It's not quite a Scandinavian flick, but it's as close as you're going to get in a GT. Exactly. Just use it. Just get good. No, I'm joking. But like, just
no, I'm not joking. Julian Kunz, get good.
Just get better, mate. Just if he used it, he might be in the lead right now. You never know.
I don't know. No, I don't think he would.
Probably
be.
not that far, but you know, we can dream. We can exaggerate just to emphasize our point and our hatred for him not using the extra bit of track. You're a racing driver. Use the track.
What's going to happen at Laguna Seca?
Well, yeah, we've just improved the lap time a bit, haven't they? But I've noticed last couple of laps, actually, random point, that there's been a couple of laps where Latkovsky has gone faster than Kunz, has gone faster than Blankenberg. So we see, I think that's Mikiewicz to the inside of Daniel into the first corner, into Hells, and he's gone a little bit wide. That might allow D'Amico to come up the inside, and he gets through and back up into P11. But the slipstream should help him keep ahead of Vigneron. But yeah, like I was saying, it's difficult. I've actually forgotten what I was saying, but it was difficult at Laguna Seca because you can just extend a little bit more, can't you? But it's difficult here. But look at how close Kunz is to Latkovsky now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the day they remove some of these concrete barriers, move them back and stick runoff there, is the day I will stop loving this circuit. I am not joking. I'm not joking at all. This circuit is built by... To be fair, Australians are absolutely wild and crazy, and I don't see those as the kind of people to get rid of it, knowing like some of the circuits that they've built recently, the likes of Newcastle and such. I don't think they're going to change Bathurst anytime soon. No need to. I mean, yes, I know the supercars racing's getting faster and faster. I know the GT3s are getting faster over the top, but realistically speaking, I don't think there's much requirement for them to change it up. It's a risky circuit. That's the joy of it. Let's see if there's going to be any switches towards this top lot. I don't believe so, because I think Julian Kunz is probably just using the slipstream of the Audi R8 to save a little fuel, potentially not push as hard over the top, gain that time back. Well, maybe not. He's going to look to the inside going through the chase, and this time he's going to try and go for a move. A bit of a squeeze there from Cody Nikola Latkovsky, but this race is absolutely on. The German's going for it. He wants it.
He does indeed, and he's fighting tooth and nail for it. We've been waiting for the last 16 and a half minutes for something to happen. It happened, and it's diffused. Cody Nikola Latkovsky able to keep the BMW at bay for now. Kunze has shown his intent, and that might make Cody look in his mirrors a bit more, check where the BMW is. I mean, maybe Kunze was trying to lead him into a false sense of security for the majority of the race so far, but whatever his plan was for the opening moments has been thrown out the window because Julian Kunze is here and he's putting some pressure on. But like we were saying earlier on with the pack racing, he's the meat of the sandwich between Nikola Lutovsky and Colin Blankenberg as well. So he's got to be careful looking forwards and backwards in this three-way fight for the lead.
And he does. And I remember what I was saying before now about the top three. They were working together well, and they were pulling away from Rui Felipe by a few tenths a lap, as we now see. I think that's Mackenberg and Zabdir fighting it out for P7 and P8 as they come up through Griffin's Bend. And yes, some laps Lapkovsky was faster than Blankenberg, and other laps it was the other way around. Blankenberg had caught a bit, but even still they were pulling from Rui Felipe every single lap, and they still are. It's up to 5 seconds now between third and fourth, and they're only about 18 minutes into the race, so that gap will surely keep increasing if they work together like this continuously.
The only question is, what kind of strategy are they running? Are they pushing a lot harder than Rui Felipe? Is Felipe trying to do it where he's going to either take less fuel on the stop? Maybe he's heavier at the moment than the two. He's going to blast past the hour mark. Again, to remind you, if you are joining us here for the race and you've not joined us throughout any of the build up to this or through qualifying, there is no mandatory pit stop in this race. There's no window for it. There is no nothing. You go from the start of the race to the end of the race in whatever way you see fit. If you can get through it 2 hours without, changing tyres and without coming into the pit lane for a fuel stop, I mean, you're a better driver than I can tell you that for free, and certainly more patient. If you can do so, great. It's well within the rules of the event. If you need to stop, then it's up to you whether you change tyres and such. That is the joy of this, as we see D'Amico and Daniel switching positions. The Czech driver's got the inside run going through the chase. A bit of a hip check. Don't bully a big bad Bentley because you'll be sent off. At this point, though, D'Amico is able to keep the trio behind. Daniel Mikiewicz and, of course, Vigneron. He's had to fight his way back as D'Amico after a couple of mistakes. Remember that he ran wide going through the chase. He's ran wide a couple of times going over the top, going through McPhillamy. This time he just wants to check out from the grouping behind and maybe even catch up back to Zabdir, who out of nowhere has pulled 5 seconds on that grouping. Here's the battle over the race lead as Kunze's still trying to fight Lakovsky.
He is indeed through Griffin's Bend once more, and well, outside line didn't work for Zabdir, and it's not quite worked for Kunze this time by either. It's such a long way round and also slightly cambered, I think, on the inside, so you can use the rotation of the track to rotate the car as well, as opposed to be on the outside, the curb, the wall. It's not really the place to be unless you've got a massive pace advantage. So Kunze's going to have to bide his time and wait for the opportune moment. But yeah, are all three of these guys all on the same strategy? Is there some variations? I think it's too early to tell, but it's one of those things you have to think about throughout this race. And while yes, some people might be slower or quicker than others at different points, it might at the end of the race all be completely different to what we expected at this point. So for Blankenberg, he's had a big moment. Did he have a slide through the top of the mountain maybe?
Don't know. He's definitely had something.
Is that a spark coming off the front, or is that just my eyes?
No, I think the car is fine. There's no damage on there or anything like that. But I mean, let's be honest, there are plenty of places around the circuit where you can make the odd mistake. I would say potentially has run wide through McPhillamy, or maybe even Hellcorn has made a mistake down there. But certainly has made a mistake in the very recent past.
He has, and it's not helped him out massively at all. I mean, they had the three of them at the front had a great lap together. I mean, they were the only drivers in the 2-minute threes last time around and pulled a second and a half from Rui Felipe. But yeah, Blankenberg making that mistake. He's going to have a lot of work to do without that slipstream to catch up to these two. But he may be able to do it, but he will have to use a little bit more of the car than he was using beforehand. But look at Kunze. He's really trying to find a way through. And Lakovsky does feel a need to go defensive. And he will have a run, it seems, up once again towards Griffin's Bend. But we'll have to see if he can do it this lap.
I'm taking a look at that second sector time, by the way, because that was where he lost around about 2 seconds, did Blankenberg. So I'm going to take a wild guess that, yes, it was wide over the top. probably going through McPhillamy, as that is out wide there from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. This could be Kunze. It'll be a risky one to get to the outside going through the cutting, but he is going to send it in. He's going to almost get all the way around the outside. The Audi R8 should prevail with the inside line. Bit of a hip check between the two of them, and two of the very best are going to go side by side up towards the mountain. Once again, a touch between the two of them as they head up quarry through Reed Park. This is fantastic stuff between the two GT3s. Julian Kunze, with a superb inspired move, takes over the front of the race. That was absolutely phenomenal. Latkovsky didn't want to fight it too hard, but wow, he gave Julian Kunze a bit of a run for his money. Super stuff.
Take a bow, both of them. It takes two to tango. Let's not forget Julian Kunze with such a good move, but Cody Nikola Latkovsky with a brilliant defensive effort. It wasn't quite good enough in the end, but it is not often you see side by side at any point on each of those bits of the circuit, let alone consecutively. Brilliant stuff between both involved, and it tells me with how hard both of them fought that it is far from over. This fight is not done. Cody Nikola Latkovsky wants to get a bit of payback with the Audi R8 straight line speed, maybe in the slipstream through the Conrod straight in towards the chase. Is he close enough to maybe see the door open inside? Outside, he's going to duck late. He's going to be brave on the brakes, and here comes Cody Nikola Latkovsky trying to fight for the race lead once more, but once more, Kunze goes to the outside and etches his way ahead.
And just squeezes him out onto the outside curve, doesn't he, as they come in towards the final corner, but Kunze defending hard. But Latkovsky, that was a late send, wasn't it, into the chase, but it nearly worked out for him as to take back the race lead. But what a lap of racing between them. I said, just before I handed over to you, Lewis, that Kunze, could he do it this lap? I didn't think he'd be able to do it like that, but what a piece of racing between the two of them. And it really is fantastic to see Kunze trying to take the lead and defend it. He's weaving a little bit down that straight, and I don't think Latkovsky will be close enough to make a move into Griffin's Bend. But all of this is a gift to Blankenberg, isn't it? He's gained a second and a half on that last lap, 1.7 seconds to Latkovsky because of their fighting, and he's, another lap of that and he'll be right back in it.
Yeah, we'll see if there is going to be a move. I mean, I'm just in awe of a move like that. Absolutely phenomenal. The respect, the bravery to have given that a go. Don't get me wrong, I've seen a fair few moves over the top done. In fact, I remember seeing in the real Bathurst 12 hour potentially the slowest overtake ever in a race. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It was around about this part of the race. Shane van Giersbergen, and I'm pretty sure it was for the race lead, took over the race lead at around about 40 to 50 kilometres an hour. Out into the wall goes Zabdir. That was because, by the way, it was raining and they were all on slicks. Very interesting. Classic weather. No rain in this race, don't worry about it. But yeah, wow. Latkovsky and Kunze, absolutely right, Zach. Take a bow, but for Blankenberg, he will be closing in. Not quite for Rui Felipe, who obviously will close into the similar sort of margin, but he's way, way further back. And now this lap, I'm watching his second sector. Rui Felipe back to being about 8/10 slower than Colin Blankenberg, about half a second slower than the top two. And so I don't think the Portuguese driver is going to be rejoining this fight anytime soon, unless there is some strategy conundrums being thrown in with the top 10, top 5 drivers, which, let's be honest, we wouldn't put past this bunch.
Absolutely not. I mean, they've been brilliant so far, and that's on track, let alone off track. I mean, Rui Felipe maybe didn't get off to the best of start, so might have changed his game plan to, cut his losses, go a little bit slower for the first and save some fuel, bide his time a little bit, then maybe come into his own a little bit later on. Who knows what's going through these drivers' heads? I'm sure we'll sort of piece a better picture together when we do get to the first round of planned pit stops. But as it stands, Felipe is a little bit off the lead fight, but he's not necessarily losing a ton of time. He's just sort of bit by bit being bridged away. So it's not like he's 20, 30 seconds off the race lead. He is only about 7 seconds, which around Bathurst, in all fairness, isn't really a lot, all things considered. All that really is a spin, a bit of contact side by side for a few laps or so. That 7 seconds, while right now it seems like a lot, it can very quickly come down.
It can definitely, especially you have a couple more laps of fighting like we saw between Kunze and Latkovsky just a few minutes ago. But I mean, there were only 4 drivers in the top 10, 12 on that last lap who were in the 2-minute threes, and they were these top 3, Kunze, Latkovsky and Blankenberg. And then it was Luca D'Amico down in P9, and he's got about 4 seconds to catch to Mario Zabdir. But Latkovsky, I didn't think he'd go for it there, but he looks like he's looking for it over Skyline. Down through the S's, but he's really close to the back of Kunze through there. But yeah, I think Luca D'Amico might be looking to try and gain on Zabdir and in turn Mackenberg, because those two are quite close together for 7th and 8th.
D'Amico's got some really, really good pace. We've seen that as he's obviously made a couple of mistakes, the way he's risen his way back up, and obviously being powered by you fans in the chat. We know, I've seen a few of your D'Amico favouritisms out there. That's absolutely fine. Once again, Slipstream trying to be broken here by Kunze, who has been making quite a lot of mistakes over the top of the mountain. Got to be said, he did a 12-1 in the middle sector. Blankenberg did an 11-4 in that middle sector. Blankenberg is flying up to the rear end of these two. Once again, he's only 1.6 seconds off. I've seen he's been pushing to the very limit. He's brushed the wall a couple of times behind. Let's see if there's going to be a move here for the Macedonian. The defensive line's being taken by Kunze, who's going to go a little bit deep here in T1. That was so predictable. And Kunze's gone off into the barrier. He was defending like his life depended on it, and he just made the most costly mistake. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Kunze as well. That is a shame.
Big shame. And, well, the end for now for our three-way lead fight. Colin Blankenberg, maybe we could see him reel back in the Macedonian, but that's still 1.6 seconds off at the moment. So Julian Kunze, yeah, he's going to be kicking himself with that one. And now he's got two ways he can go about it. He can feel sorry for himself. He can have that self-pity and hate himself for the rest of the race with that mistake, or he can fuel the fire with it and he can use that as motivation to drive his way back into contention. Which side of the coin we'll see, I guess, is one we'll find out in sort of an hour and a half's time as to where he is. 4.5 seconds, again, there's worse places to be, but with the broken morale and the fact that he's really tarnished his momentum in this race, it's not looking too good. And, well, Cody Nikola Lutovsky, despite all of the pressure that's been put on him, he's not really been... He's not shied away from any fights. He's not lacked any composure. He's just been doing lap after lap after lap at a consistent pace. And, well, he's not been faced. He's the only one of the top three not to make a mistake, touchwood.
And I think, unless the timing, I think Kunze's retired, hasn't he? He's disappeared from the track, and it says on the timing screens that he's DNF'd.
Yeah,
at the bottom there, you can see on your screen. So that's the end of Julian Kunze then, and that promotes Yuri Felipe to P3. I saw just a minute ago that Manuel Zabdir had got past Mackenberg. So he's ahead of the Mackenberg, and Luca D'Amico, who was catching, will have caught a little bit more as they fought. I think he was 1.5 seconds quicker than Mackenberg through the middle sector on this lap. But Blankenberg is looking good as well, another 10.5 on Latkowski on this lap through the middle sector. So he looks like he can catch up, but yeah, Rui Felipe now is the man defending the bottom step of the podium.
Yeah, of course, Latkowski did win a year ago. Who was third in that race? Rui Felipe. Again, just being consistent, keeping your car on the road, not making any mistakes. I think he's just running a fairly calm and collected race at the moment. Is Rui Felipe. Sven Mackenberg not too far behind. Gerhardt, like I say, hovering off the rear end of that. Big shame for Kunze, mostly for the fact of I was really enjoying that race, to be perfectly honest. But I'm sure he was as well. Just made a costly mistake in the final corner. Like I said, I've been there, I've done that, I've got the T-shirt of that one. It's such an easy mistake to make going down to Murray's when you're taking the defensive line. That corner is so tight. And like I say, just got on the brakes too late. It was very predictable, I'm afraid. But I do believe the front right suspension damage was probably a little bit too much. Probably wouldn't have been tracking straight. And then decided to pull the plug on the race. It does indeed happen. It does mean, though, that we can focus on some of the fights down in the pack. We did see that Marvin Mackenberg, by the way, and Zabdir have switched over. So Marius Zabdir up now into 6th position. And D'Amico is closing in. Yellow flag out in the final sector. Not 100% sure as to what that is for. I think it's for someone down the order, considering most of the pack is heading up through the mountain now in sector 2.
Is it Hennig down the bottom? He's dropping a couple of places and finds himself with a yellow banner next to his number. So maybe that is as to why he's that yellow flag's been thrown out, and there's probably not going to be the last one we see throughout the duration of this race. But yeah, it's nice to see how it's developing. Blankenberg is reeling back in. Cody Nikola Lutovsky about a second. Here's this fight though. Petar Daniel, Mikovic and Vignon just in the background as well in this three-way fight for P9. At the moment, it is the Czech driver that heads the train a little bit off the back of Luca D'Amico, and well, I guess when you get to this stage in the race, everything is always going to start to space out a bit. I guess it's going to funnel back in and get a little bit more interesting when the first round of pit stops come in, probably in the next sort of 20-30 minutes or so.
Yeah, and they will. And I mean, Daniel defending well. I mean, he was overtaken by D'Amico a few laps ago, but he's now got Mikiewicz and Vigneron on the back of him, and he's going to have to defend hard. But then there's a bit of a gap back to Sebastiano Rossi. But Mackenberg again last lap, another 3/10 off of Latowski, and they really are pulling away. That's another half a second out of Rui Felipe, who's now nearly 8 seconds, 7.5 seconds. He's going to a little bit of time as I say that, up towards presumably Griffin's Bend. But yeah, a quarter of this race gone then. It's a shame that we've lost Julian Kunze, but it still looks like it's going to be an interesting fight, particularly for that bottom step on the podium. Because Rui Felipe's got it at the moment, but with Mackenberg there are a lot of drivers who look like they could pull up alongside and maybe take third off him.
Yeah, and that is before we start seeing these strategy games unfold. Are we going to see pit stops bang on halfway in the race? Is that the fastest way to do it? Is it more being fueled up at this point and saving a little bit to go a little further past the hour mark, even towards half an hour left to go? I've done a few of these races on RaceRoom. I've seen drivers go, hour and a half into the race, then pit, then come out, and then fire in some great lap times, jump their way up onto the podium. I remember some of the race at the Nordschleife was absolutely madness a couple of years ago. So yeah, again, that's the joy of this kind of strategy. 2 hours isn't too awkward, but it is in that kind of vein of, it leaves it nice and open on the strategy. By the way, I'm going to split this up just a little bit, as we'll see this switching straight around the outside from Gavin, trying to get past Hennig, who's out a little wide, going up through Quarry and Reed Park, looking up on that. So there's going to be some great action up and down this order. Zach did mention earlier that my favourite track on the planet is, of course, Mount Panorama. I'm going to ask Dara, what is your favourite track? Zach's is Snetterton. He thinks the Nordschleife is completely overrated.
I didn't know what the Nord was. I said Le Mans.
No, I'm joking. Le Mans is overrated. That's fine.
Right. Well, this depends. I've got to be honest. I do love a completely different kind of race. Why would I say Miami?
Because you did tell me once Miami was a decent track.
Hang on.
No.
Dara, I was getting to like you a bit.
I would like to take this back. That was in reference to the fact that I enjoyed driving on it on the F1 game, not actually as a track on itself.
Okay. I mean, the fact that you enjoy driving on an F1 game really isn't painting you in good light, mate.
That was the point I was making. I rarely do, and that was the only one I enjoyed. Anyway, no, can't believe you'd suggest that I'd say Miami. No, I have to say I like Zach's suggestion Snetterton, but no, seriously, I think I don't know really. It depends. I mean, if you've got a little Mazda race going, I love Virginia works well. But then if it's a proper
GT3.
they're GT3 track.
Just a GT3, just a nice generic flat GT3 or Formula 3, whatever.
Sepang. Why not Sepang?
Whoa! Oh my goodness! I have just unfriended you. Okay,
he's digging
cool.
deeper with every.
What is yours?
I'm trying to think of category races.
No, that's fine. It's fine. You think about it for a bit. You sit on the naughty step and you really think about what you've done.
At least he doesn't want Sebring repaved.
Actually, no.
True. Yeah, true. Dara, what are your thoughts on Sebring being repaved?
Don't start this. In here. Oh my
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. No, I'm just not. I'm not going to entertain that. No, I will. Right,
it's fine. You think about it for a second. You really think about it. Zach, what is yours?
GT/F3 track, right?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, Spa's nice, but it's overused in sim racing. So yeah, so you see it everywhere. Here we go, side by side, Parron and Vutric in the fight for 11th into the chase. No movement there. The Ferrari looks to the left-hand side, whether that's yellow or green, I can't actually tell you. But
it's
he's
yellow.
working his way through. Yeah, thank you. But the in terms of tracks, it's not Le Mans. Snetterton's alright, but again, I haven't in a Formula 3 machine, probably a bit better. I don't know. I like Donington. I don't know. I'm just listing off UK tracks here, but I like Donny. Yeah.
Interesting. By the way, that it was very brave of Zach to have suggested a colour there whilst talking about a car.
That's why I didn't. That's why I
He is
questioned.
actually colourblind. Let's not beat around the bush there. Only someone like Zach would do all of your exams in green pen. That is absolutely fine. Either way, focus back on the fighting at hand. Daniel Mikiewicz and Vigneron, all of this fight for 7th. As we'll return to our little side, we'll come back to the best track. Of course, if you have a favourite track in the world of sim racing and motorsport, drop it in chat. Let us know what you think is the absolute best. Maybe your favourite track in the world for some reason is Po, and you think, actually, I'd quite like to drive the Po Grand Prix. Well, I'll be coming to RaceRoom pretty soon, I think. So each to their own on that one.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, I do like RaceRoom's new content plan of obviously the quarterly ones and then once every 6 weeks, which is great. Yeah, nice bit of content dropping soon, which is awesome. Also, a bit of of an update here at a good circuit around the world, not the best, is the 2 Mackenberg brothers are both disconnected.
Oh no. Oh yeah. Well, that's
no.
yeah. Probably that is internet. Let's just take a wild time. That's probably internet.
Yeah.
Looking into the YouTube chat, Marvin is saying that the connection was fine, but both of them still got kicked at the same time. So something's happened. And Sven was saying that he was really optimistic about strategy. So it's a shame that it's ended in a way that's out of their control.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if it, same house, same internet, that's not going to go well. Blankenberg looks very, very close to Laktowski here as he's coming towards the chase. Oh, is that the chase? No, it's not the chase. Sorry, my apologies. That's Griffin's Bend. That was just a very poor interpretation of the camera angle there. But no, I don't think we'll be able to make a move on this lap. But yeah, I mean, he's closed right up. Rui Felipe is now nearly 9 seconds off the front here. But I mean, yeah, it's difficult to say really what the strategy from here is going to be because Laktowski looks like he's a little bit slower than Blankenberg through this stage of the race. Is that because Blankenberg is pushing a bit more, or is that because Blankenberg just has a bit more pace on him? But we'll have to wait and find that out. We've still got 81 minutes and 49 seconds to go.
I mean, I have just been messaged about it. I was actually going to bring this up as well. This could also be down to car selection as well. Potentially, the Mercedes a little easier on its tyres. Depends, obviously. Yes, the car can be easier, but it also depends on how you drive yourself. But if the Merc is a little easier on its tyres versus the Audi, yes, you can kind of you can lean on them a little bit more and kind of really push the car to the very limit, that little bit extra, that little bit more consistently, and kind of you'll end up balancing out the tyres with the Audi later on. If not, you just kind of underdrive it or drive the car at the same kind of level, and then you come on stronger later on anyway, courtesy of just having better tyres towards the end of the stint. That certainly seems to be the case for Blankenberg. But then obviously it depends on when these drivers are going to be coming into the pit lane. Will it be in 20 minutes' time? Will it be pushing it much further than that? Yes, of course, there is a strategy open now where if you want to do a two-stop strategy, I can tell you for sure that probably won't work. But, I've been wrong before.
A number of times. I mean, but yeah, you're welcome. I mean, Bathurst hasn't got the longest pit lane in the world, so I mean, it could be worse.
It's slow though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's true, and also the fiddly chicane before you go in as well. To be fair, it's not quite as long as the Spa Endurance pit lane, which is it says a lot, but it's not the longest in the world. It just depends on how long you're staying stationary and how quickly you can make that time up. I'm not overly convinced that a second stop, maybe for fresh tyres or a bit of extra fuel, outweighs the penalty of going into the pit lane again. So I think the general consensus is going to be a one-stop. I think the only question that remains is when are you going to take it?
Well, exactly. I think that's the main issue at hand at the moment. Of course, there's no particular what's the word I'm looking for? Demanded window. That's not what I'm looking for. But you know what I mean. For the drivers to take a pit stop, they are going to have to pit whenever they want to. So it's just depending on whether if you can feel like you can run a little bit lighter on fuel in the second run, you might want to pit a little bit later. But it'll all be up to the drivers as we go over the next 40 minutes or so through this middle third of the race. But yeah, Damek, that's Petter Daniel, as you said, Lewis, the big bad Bentley. He's still defending from Mikovic, who's not been able to get past, but he's dropped so far back from D'Amico, who's nearly on the back of Sabadir now. There's only 1.1 seconds between them, as he's gained another half a second on this lap so far. But there is a lot of movement. I mean, you can see there, I think that's better Daniel up 6 from where he started, P13, so he's had a good run. Grunig, Daniel P14's up 7 from 21st, so he's also having a nice race. But Blankenberg is still keeping tabs, and that gap to Felipe is nearly 10 seconds now, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, a lot of these drivers are assisted on this because you'll see there's a lot of green on there. You think, oh, surely that's not possible because, surely they can't have all moved forward this much. You got to remember that we've had, of the retirements that we've had, 4 of them have been drivers from inside the top 10. Sven and Marvin Mackenberg, as almost a little bit touching over the rear end. Yeah, Sven and Marvin Mackenberg, Julian Kunze, of course, and then Egan was also a retirement from this race, who was also involved in the fights in and around sort of like that kind of area, sort of like 10th, 11th, 12th, in that kind of. So we have lost a lot from that kind of region. Obviously, that means that when they move down, everyone else will move up a spot, and thus the chances of them actually being plus minus to 1 or 2 positions is actually, pretty likely. That's how it goes. Cody Nikolai-Latkovsky under a fair amount of pressure. The Audi R8 seeming to struggle a little bit more on its sides at the moment as we head over the top of the mountain. Once again, 0.3 of a second off the rear. And of course, if the Audis are struggling, this is perfect for Blankenberg because guess who the 2 cars are behind him? They're 10 seconds behind and they're both Audi R8s. You've got to say if Latkovsky's struggling on his tyres, you've got to say Rui Felipe and Gerhardt probably would be as well. Could be good news for the likes of Zabdir and D'Amico also, who could be closing their way in. Yellow flag comes out in the 3rd sector of the race. Again, not 100% sure as to who that is for. I think it might be for Freigang and potentially John Rose as well.
Yes, I think
so.
so.
Look at that car. That is toast.
Oh, that does not look pretty. That is, they've definitely come together at some point, assuming it was a clash together, whether it's very unlikely that they've just spun at the same point. So I'm assuming that something's gone wrong, but he's continued on, so it can't necessarily be that bad. Maybe just the front bumper is hanging off. Hopefully for him, his wheel geometry is still pointing the tyres where they should be. Also, another yellow flag in the 3rd sector for the Swissman of Sen. I think that's cleared itself up once more. So, yellow flags left, right, and centre. That is crabbing if I've ever seen it. That does not look fun. That looks less fun.
Oh no!
Oh dear. Yeah, that's really unideal for Roland Sen there down in P13. That's an interesting view of the car. Of course, it doesn't really work well with the pink and blue livery, but I'm sure that's not what he's concerned about when he's looking down at the bonnet. But yeah, a few incidents there. I mean, spicing up a little bit a few of the drivers. As we look at Perrin defending at the moment a little bit, but I think your point with the Audis might be correct, and I don't think we've actually barely mentioned Jonas Gerhardt. This entire race he's quietly been plodding along in P4, and gained those positions, of course, through some of the retirements we've had. But yeah, it's looking interesting. Rui Felipe though, he's starting to keep with Blankenberg and Latkovsky in terms of a lap time, but he's 10 seconds off of the back, so it's not looking exactly ideal. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Blankenberg can work his way in front of the Audis, or if those Audis can start ganging up on him by the end.
By the way, did note the point, by the way, from Roland about Roland Sen from Mealing. I think that car, that damage on it is just it's lag base, it's server base. It's not actually damage on the car. Pace still seems fine in that Mercedes, still keeping a decent gap to Chevrolet Urso, who by the way has got past Grunig in that battle for 14th. So I think this is more client based, or server side damage. So don't worry about it. It's just that's sort of like that connection damage. Should be absolutely fine. That said, banging into the barrier like that probably won't help too much to your car. I don't know, because I've been there and I've done that one as well. I think pretty much any wall around the Bathurst circuit has at least got some form of paint from my car on. Classic. Zabdir. Well? Pardon?
Did you get the T-shirt as well?
Yeah, I was going to say you must have a massive collection of T-shirts.
I've got
for this
a
kind
lot of T-shirts. Yes, I've been in sim racing for a long time, since before you were born. True. That is not true. But it is 10 years, so each to their own.
Then.
Don't start. Don't you start, or I'll start telling everyone that you want Sebring to be repaved. I've ruined one man's career by doing that. I'll ruin another.
This is simply untrue.
It's complete false information. It's great. The power. D'Amico on the rear end of Zabdir is looking to struggle a little bit in that Callaway, just a touch. I saw the rear end stepping out a little bit, going through Murray's and through Hell Corner as well. Get the feeling the Ferrari we're on board with right now might potentially be looking for a move fairly soon. D'Amico's been looking pretty fast, Zach, and he's building on it.
He is indeed. That Ferrari has looked mighty so far. The highest running Ferrari, of course. You have to look all the way back to Vutric in P12 to see the next one. And he's been very brave on the brakes. So I do feel a little bit worried for Mariusz Zabdir in terms of keeping that P5, which he has done very well to earn, by the way. Qualified, I think, just shy of the top 10 and has been moving his way forward ever since. I think P11 is here comes Vutric, the other Ferrari, the yellow Ferrari, looking to the inside of Griffins and not quite able to move his way past the Belgian of Jonas Parent as it stands, but still a good fight nonetheless. But yeah, Mariusz Zabdir, if he is struggling in that Chevrolet, I mean, I am a bit worried about him because Luca D'Amico will see that like a shark smelling blood in the water and will definitely eye up the move if he can.
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. There is a lot riding on D'Amico getting through here because he could very easily then try and see if he can catch the two Audis of Felipe and Gerhardt. And I did mention it a while ago. He did have a lot of pace under him, so you just see Blankenberg getting close to Latkovsky there. But he does have a lot of pace under him in that Ferrari, and it's because whether he can get through what he would probably consider as a bit of traffic to get towards the front once again. But Blankenberg, I think he's happy at the moment to sit where he is. Just lift off a bit, save some fuel, and keep Latkovsky just where he wants him.
Yeah, I think he's been a little more patient than the attempt we saw earlier on from Julian Kunze. Kind of get the vibe that we're not going to see quite an as audacious pass from the Mercedes that's presently sat in second position in this race, is what we saw earlier on. Which, I mean, to be fair enough, that was our money's worth racing up over the top to have it that tight, and the level of pushing between the pair of them, between Latkovsky and between Julian Kunze up the mountain once again. I am going to return to you, by the way, for that question about favourite track. You've had enough time to think about it now. Try again, not Sepang.
Okay,
Just
well,
brutal.
I've had a think. I've panicked. Okay, I've got a few, and I'll explain them as we go. I think for the pure, to view, for the pure racing view, I think Barber is underrated in that respect.
Barber is underrated.
Oh, thank gosh. I was really worried I was getting absolutely slated there.
Okay.
But yeah, Barber's up there for the scenery as we see there's Roland Sen, oh my words, with Chevalier so as they go side by side up towards through Griffin's Bend and up towards the cutting with a little bit like Latkovsky and Kunze earlier on the race, but a big chunk out of the wall there as he comes around the top of the cutting through Griffin's Mount. They're still side by side though as they're coming through the top of the hill.
Yeah, they're racing pretty hard between the pair of these. Got to say, Chevalier, who's into the barrier himself, just wall banging. It's just turning into a bit of Gran Turismo racing between the pair of these two, slapping walls left, right, and centre as they fight over 13th position. Once again, a bit of a look through McPhillamy and Chevalier, who's been picking up a couple of positions. He's picked off the Mercedes of Gooding, picked off the Mercedes of Sen as well. So the Porsche's coming on pretty strong as we look back up towards Zabdir and D'Amico trying to fend off the Ferrari as they mount the curb, going through the chase. Another little mistake from D'Amico. Very quickly back to your points of Barber. That's a tick for you. That's a circuit that Zach has not heard of, so that's good.
I knew it was coming.
You're winning.
I was just going to say, you're just going to say all Dara's proven is he knows more tracks than I do.
That is true. He does know more tracks than you. Anyway, carry on.
And I had another one. I'm worried about saying, but I do quite like Sonoma.
Oh,
it's not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah, it's kind of one of those ones that's sort of like, I don't mind it right up until the second I drive it, and then I hate myself. But it's like, yeah, there are worse circuits in the world. Were those the two?
They're the two that I thought of as, if I get these wrong, then I'm never going to be able to talk ever again.
Yeah,
but I might
Barber's
as well give them a go. Yeah, I like Barber.
Barber it's a good little track. I mean, I wouldn't classify it in sort of like the best in the world kind of category, but I do agree. I think it is horrendously underrated. It is such a good one. Mid-Ohio also, to be fair. I actually quite like Mid-Ohio.
That was another one I had down.
Nice, cool. These are all circuits that, again, Zach doesn't know. As we'll see this Ferrari to the inside. Vithrick trying to get past Perrin once again. The attempt at Griffin's Bend. And Zach, it is a pretty tight fight between these two.
It is indeed, and it's going to continue. Oh my word, the Ferrari sweeps his way around the outside. Vithrick, that was sensational. Very similar to the other two attempts that we've seen. You know, one of them successful, the other not. That one ticks the box as being very successful. Jonas Perrin was just a little bit too cautious, probably for the best reason. But Vithrick trusted his instinct, trusted his gut, trusted his ability. And well, it's not often you see moves like that. That was brilliant. He moves his way up into P11. The only thing is he's got 8 seconds until he has a decent chance of trying to do it again, although that time it will be for the top 10. But I guess you got to start somewhere, and if it's 8 seconds back, well, it just gives him more fun on the way there, I suppose. Just more time to put in some good laps and some clean air. I don't know, but Vithrick has spent some time behind Perrin, and now he gets to enjoy a nice clear track around Mount Panorama, which is a novelty that not many people are going to get with the very large grid that we've got. And well, it might just be nice to enjoy some time to yourself.
I think he'll be enjoying it. I mean, Peter Daniel has got a similarly large amount of space in front of him, but he's got Mikovic right on the back of him, and he's been there for a while now. But we see side by side. Oh, there we go. Mikovic making the move, as I mentioned him, towards turn 1 on the big bad Bentley. Through they come Hell's Corner, and I think he's got the move done, but runs a little bit wide. Might allow Daniel a little bit of a run. He's going to have to go to the outside line, though, as they run up mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend. I don't know if he's going to be able to walk around the outside there, but he's going to have a nice chunk of car alongside, but he just backs up a little bit, and Mikovic takes the line through the corner, and he's up into P7 now. It's been a while coming here as well, but Daniel looks like he might just have to sit in P8 if he doesn't send it around the outside here. Oh!
That was very silly from Daniel. I don't know why he lifted... So you lift out going into Griffin's Bend, but up towards the cutting. Nah, this is my time, Chief. I don't get it. Sometimes there are decisions you make as a driver, be it in a real race car or in sim racing, where the immediate moment after you've tried it, you're thinking, "What am I doing?" Look at how much lock, by the way. Did you see that? How much lock Daniel was putting in, going through the left-hander at McPhillamy. I wonder if we'll get more. If you can see quite a lot there, going up towards. Through the dipper and stuff. How much lock was that? He was 180 degrees hand over hand going through one of the fastest parts of this circuit. That's wild to me.
He's going to be shredding his front tyres is what it's going to be doing. Maybe his wheel sensitivity is slightly different. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Either way, this is Luca D'Amico trying to eye up the move to the outside over the grass under braking. Nearly had a look to the outside, but Marius Sabdir is able to hang on. A good attempt, but he just ran out of road on the outside. But yeah, either way, that was an absurd amount of lock, and it almost gets to a point where it is doing more harm than good. But yeah, God knows what's going on. Either way, yeah, I don't know. Strange one indeed, and. Well, I don't know. Crank the lock on if in doubt, turn more. I don't know. Yeah, whatever it is. As Grunig moves his way past Sen for P13 as well, the battle of the Swissmans. But yeah, this fight for P5 is raging on, and Zabdi doesn't look like he wants to relinquish 5th place anytime soon.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that how I was fighting the lock, but I loved your use of the word Swissmans there, Zach.
Swissmans.
I might write that one down.
It is good.
It's better than calling them Swedes like I did at Daytona. It's fine.
That's
that's not ideal. But yeah, I was going to say, with the full lock there, I saw it when you saw it, Lewis, but I wasn't sure if my eyes were deceiving me or not. Is that coming into the pit lane? I think it is. Who was that coming in?
I was going to say it's Christian Orban, but it's definitely not. I think it might be Grunig, yeah.
Grunig, yeah, and Orban as well. But those two are in. What have we got? 1 hour 5 to go, so it's just before half distance. So if we are going to see some stoppers, I think we've just seen the start of the window.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that quite a lot of these, particularly towards the front, will go potentially further than you think, even past the hour. Obviously, we are expecting a pit stop. Depends how many tyres, how much fuel you want to take. Zabdir sliding out the rear end, kind of get the feeling this Callaway's ending its run out on the circuit pretty soon, and that is either way. Either it will be in a barrier or into the pit lane fairly soon to get rid of these tyres, because they are just getting shredded, particularly on the rear end, it seems, of this Callaway. Overdriving it potentially. We did see Zabdir was working hard to work his way up the order in the earlier stages. There is the plus minuses on those gained and lost. Most gained at the moment will be 17th place with Bozo, as we'll see D'Amico looking to the inside once again, just +1 when it comes to positions gained. But let's be honest, the amount of overtakes that Ferrari's had to do is quite a few. Is Zabdir coming into the pit lane? The answer is no. Oh, that is a big send, though. A big look from the Italian, looking to the inside of the final corner. I mean, you've got to be brave to try it, but that is generally one that if you go for it in the final corner, 9 times out of 10, you're in that barrier that Kunze was in earlier.
Yeah, it's very easy to overstep the mark. But D'Amico, I mean, all race long we've seen him brave on the brakes. It's been both his help and his hindrance in some cases. But here we go, closing the gap. Is that Ferrari got enough straight line speed to close in on the Callaway in towards Griffiths? He's not quite close enough, but I guess for Zabdir, even though he is struggling on his tyres, his aim might just be to try and stretch it to half distance and see what he can do in the second half of the race. But Luca D'Amico, I do sense a sense of urgency from the Italian, because, well, just the way he's driving, how close he's getting to the rear end of the pole, and, well, how desperate he does seem in some of his moves, how late he's braking. Fortunately, there's been no incident between the pair of them. He is still being rational and careful, not acting too quickly in haste, but you can definitely tell which of the two is the quicker car at the moment.
Yeah, you can. It was an interesting line there from Zabdir, I thought, into Reed Park and Sulman Park. I thought he didn't take much of the track that he could have done on the outside, but it's kept him ahead of D'Amico. He won't be too disheartened by that. And yeah, look very close to the wall from the pole. But yeah, I'm not too sure. D'Amico looks like he's trying for the move. Very defensive from Zabdir. Interesting lines. A little bit of a moment out of the corner. Yeah, he's looking like he's struggling a little bit. D'Amico might try and find his way through as soon as possible, and that might be down towards the chase.
Yeah, I mean, if Zabdir was going to have a mistake like that coming out of any corner, probably out of Forest Elbow is the one you wouldn't want that to have happen. D'Amico's going to look to the inside, but it's just they've gone through the chase. Once again, commits over to the right-hand side, almost touches the grass on the right, and copy and paste the last 3 or 4 laps. Just not really making the most of the opportunity that he's getting. Clearly, Zabdir's struggling, but into the pit lane, smashing that poor cone. As we'll see that Ferrari of D'Amico come into pit lane. Cody Latkovsky the last couple of laps has started pulling a gap out over Colin Blankenberg, so it's now up to 1.2 seconds. You kind of get the feeling the Mercedes that's been sat there for quite a while on the rear end of the Audi R8 is starting to feel the pain of that gap that had to be closed back in.
Absolutely. I mean, he did close it back up to sort of less than half a second. Now it's growing again. Now it's, it's sort of at a stalemate between the pair of them. A little bit shaky from Cody Latkovsky, but he's working his way through and I guess just driving as best he can, because not only has he been driving fast, he has been driving really consistently, but at some point the tyres are going to start to fall off ever so slightly. And, well, when you're nearly an hour into this race on one set of tyres around Bathurst, they are going to start feeling a bit of a hit. Interesting call from Luca D'Amico, though, it must be said. I think maybe he's just a bit too tired of being stuck behind Mariusz Zabdir, so much so that he's going to try and come in, do a bit of clear air, and get the undercut potentially on what could be a fresh set of tyres, and then not have to overtake him on track, because he's tried and tried and tried, and unfortunately he's kept failing. But I am going to be quite interested as to the strategy between the top two. Which one of them is going to blink first in this fight for the lead?
I'm not too sure myself, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, on that last lap, Lewis, you touched on it, Latkovsky was 0.6 faster than anybody else on the racetrack. He's really putting the hammer down somewhat, and it'll be interesting to see if he's pushing towards a pit stop or whether he's just upped the pace. Blankenberg not coming in this lap, neither is Latkovsky. But Rui Felipe, he has really dropped back now. I mean, I think that's a lapped car in front, because it can't be Colin Blankenberg. But will he come in now? Yes, he will. So he'll come in from P3, and we'll see where he pops back out onto the racetrack. But he has come into the pit lane from 3rd position.
Yeah, got to be said, by the way, that I think Latkovsky will be in this time. I think he's done a fair amount of saving. We are halfway now through this race. 30 laps to Amrou, Felipe, Gerhardt into the pit lane, I'd suspect. Yep, Zabdir in also, naturally with his struggles on the tyres, and also with his Effectively, his main rival so far in this race being D'Amico coming into the pit lane. Best come in and sort that one out. Here's Christian Orban with the BMW of Piatkowski directly behind. Yellow flag once again out in sector 3. There's been some problems, but it could just be down towards that pit entry. It is D'Amico. Oh, that is terrible. Wow. 0 out of 10. 0 out of 10 on the rejoin. What was that? Poor Vigneron.
Wow, that is such a shame. That unacceptable, really. I mean, he is in an awkward situation, being parked at the bottom of the mountain. We did say, obviously, it's probably going to be one of the worst places to park. But if in doubt, stay where you are, stay predictable. Yeah, I have to say, you're just pulling yourself back onto the circuit. Vigneron was a complete passenger. You're blind as you go through, and yeah, not really much more to say to that one. That was abysmal, and Luca D'Amico, wow, ruined not only his chance in this race, but also Vigneron's as well.
I just want to say one thing on that very, very quickly. It's because, like, a lot of drivers and staff, they might have come from the world of iRacing or even somewhere else. Where, like, you've got a general relative as to where some people are on the circuit, and sometimes you don't have that. You might not have it set up. So sometimes it can be really hard to work out who is where and when you have a clean bit. So, like, I mean, for D'Amico, that was very poor, but I will also back up a little bit to be like, he probably had absolutely no idea where anyone was and where the gaps were to go. And at that point, it's kind of like, I'm just going to get on with it as quick as possible and just hope we all get lucky.
That's all you really can do, innit? I mean, if...
Innit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can bind controls to look left and look right, but, who really does that? Who has
who
has controls? Who has enough buttons on the wheel to do it? I mean, you've got all the ones for your brake bias and whatever. No one really has the ones to look left and look right. So, I mean, yeah, you can't really blame him in some regards, but it's just a shame that, unfortunately, both drivers are in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And it's the first incident on the mountain we've probably seen today, isn't it? It's just past the hour mark. Blankenberg, Mikovic and Daniel are all in, which means Latkowski is the only one still out, and Rossi is a long, long way behind him. Good 45 seconds behind the race leader, but he's staying out, I do believe. Yes, he is. Oh, is he? No, he's not. He's coming as well. But also to note, I believe that Mario Zabdir has jumped Jonas Gerhardt in the pit lane, so that'll mean Gerhardt will have to overtake Zabdir, because Zabdir is now up into what is a net P4 behind Rui Felipe, who is 11 seconds up the road.
And obviously will have built an enormous gap over D'Amico after his issues. Obviously, our race leader carrying on at the moment, now a minute clear of everyone. Yes, of course, has to come back into the pit lane, but he's playing his cards really, really well at the moment, just with how well he's looked after his fuel, looked after his tyres, looked after his car, and timed his pace. Like, look at this. His last lap time was a 2-minute 3.4. His best lap time was a 2-minute 3.2. He is setting basically his best lap times towards the end of his stint. Now, yes, of course, the car is lighter at the moment, but still, he's looked after his tyres long enough that he's still setting better lap times now than he would do towards the start of a stint. This is a very impressive lap time from the Macedonian who is coming into the pit lane this time. 1 minute and 8 seconds. Remember that the gap to Blankenberg before he came into the pit lane was around about the 1.5 to 2 second margin. We'll see if the Macedonian, for one, is going to come out in the race lead. You would assume so. But by how much? Will he actually pull out any extra gap through this pit sequence based on how much tyre, how much fuel he's going to take? I am told the Mercedes would have needed less fuel, so Blankenberg should effectively gain a little bit there. But it's about how confident Latkowski is at this point as to whether maybe he doesn't need that much fuel considering he has run further, so that might balance that one back out again. Who knows?
Well, we'll find out. It's a race against time. Colin Blankenberg is going to drive the outlap of his life and see if he can make the jump on Cody Nikola Latkowski as well. They've both been, tyrants so far in the early stages of this race. If that's going to continue into the second half, who knows? But yeah, the Macedonian has been doing himself a ton of favours by just going that lap later. Not only does it shorten his pit stop in terms of fuel, it means that if he does take tyres, he can use them, for better for longer. I suppose he can push them a little bit more in the final stint through the final corner. For the man in second place, is he going to make the jump? The gap does close. Where is the race leader, and is he going to emerge in front? He does set his best lap of the race. There he is, and now leaving the pit lane. He is going to lose the race lead, but it's not a million miles away, and less than a second with, of course, the lap fresher tyres. this race is on.
It is on, but it's only between these two. I mean, I can't see, unless there's an incident between Blankenberg and Latkovsky, I cannot see anyone else catching. Felipe is running a very lonely race in P3. I mean, 14 seconds off Latkovsky and 11 seconds in front of Zabdir. He is very much on his own, but I think the race is definitely Blankenberg versus Latkovsky. And it's nice to see that the gap between the front two is so close, and we hope that they can stay this close for the next 54 minutes.
I do think, though, that Kovsky's pace is going to be a lot more than what Blankenberg's is. Again, based on his timing and such. But do remember as well that Blankenberg went off in the first stint, did have to close a 4-second margin back up to Cody Nikola Latkovsky, so maybe pace towards the end of the stint. There's a lot of questions to be answered. What we do know is that these two are close on pace. The advantage is kind of 50-50. Yes, Nikola Latkovsky might be the faster driver. Blankenberg has track position. We've got a big fight over the next 54 minutes to work out who is going to win. Got to say, that outlap from Blankenberg must have been absolutely on fire. Based on the lap times we were seeing from Cody Nikola Latkovsky, yeah, we saw those lap times that he was lapping pretty consistently close towards his best laps of the race, and yet still got jumped by Blankenberg. Yes, obviously, potentially a bit of a slower stop as well, but Blankenberg did what he needed to do to take over the race lead and give himself at least an opportunity to take a victory in this. And that's all you can do. He's played the strategy well, but has Latkovsky played it better?
That is the age-old question, I suppose, and we'll find out in just under 53 minutes' time. He's played his cards right. He's done the hard work in the pit lane. Now he's got to do the even harder work of, now he's got the lead, is to keep it. Cody Nikola Latkovsky is not going to allow him to stay in front. Let's put it that way. He's going to fight tooth and nail for that race lead back. He's going to try and make it 2 wins in 2 years, convert that pole to the victory. And, well, now he's got a lot of hard work to do it, because I've got to say, as much as the Macedonian is going to be motivated to win, Colin Blankenberg is probably going to be equally motivated to win. What you've got here is two drivers that in their head both think that they're going to win, an immovable object versus an unstoppable force in some regards, and unfortunately only one of them can actually take the victory.
Whoa. Yeah, no, is that my eyes, Stephen, or was that a slide from Blankenberg coming out of the cutting? Yeah, it was really right on the edge of that car, and I noticed a couple of times as he was coming down the mountain last lap around, and he bangs the wall again there. He's hit the wall a fair few times, little few grazes, bumps, and here and there as he comes on. I'll have to see if he does it again on this occasion. But I noticed just random point. The two big bad Bentleys have found each other. Rossi and Daniel in 8th and 9th. There's only 2 seconds between them. But I feel that Rossi may have jumped Daniel in the pit lane, and he's up into P8, which is good for where he was. And he's not that far off Luca D'Amico as well. So he might be one to look out for over the next 51 minutes or so. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, but I don't want to put my bet. Oh, I did already put my bet on at the start of the race that I thought Blankenberg would win, but I'm not going to put them on now.
Oh, now he says it. 51 minutes to go. Now he's bringing up the fact that, by the way,
I remembered about 3 minutes ago.
I said Blankenberg. You wait. If Blankenberg wins this race, I guarantee the last thing that Dara says on this broadcast is I did pick Blankenberg to win this race. So
at least our predictions are still in the race, though, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, at least my prediction put on the best overtaking the race. So have that. Anyway, moving on. Before we get into a big fisticuffs in this race, because again, Zach does want Sebring to be repaved. Just want to throw out a few things in this. Obviously, D'Amico, who's in 7th position, is going to have a bit of damage on his car, so potentially won't be able to catch up with Mickey Litch. This is the fight for 12th position between Perrin and Chevrolet Urso. Do also want to talk about those times in the pit lane between Blankenberg and Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Cody Nikola Latkovsky's pit lap time was 3 minutes 9.6. Obviously, when you account for the actual next lap or previous lap and such, it's a rough guess. He was in pit lane for around about a minute. Sort of, it seems like a minute 10. Basically, if you include the in lap as well. The Collins one was a 307.6. So a 307.6 versus a 309.6. Colin Blankenberg was 2 seconds faster in the pit lane than Cody Nikola Latkovsky. That is where he gained that time back. That makes sense, of course. Does obviously mean that his outlap was actually very impressive, but still he gained most of that time, a fair chunk of that time from the stationary time in the pit lane, which does make sense, but just corroborating that theory.
Yeah, well, a good effort from him nonetheless, and wherever he gained that time, he gained it at the end of the day, and has put himself in a position that could potentially see him take the race victory. The fight for 15th at the moment between Clerk and Auburn. It's nice to see the battles not only at the top are still going on, but also throughout the very extensive field that we've got here today. It's a good thing to see that no matter where we look, there's always something going on one way or another, and well, we both did some really good action, both at the front, both for the fights for the higher end of the top 10 and also in the mid-pack as well. It's been so far a very successful race, and I'm sure that is going to continue into the latter half of it. But at the moment, Christian Orban is trying to hang on. Here is the Italian of Rossi. He's trying to close into his countryman of Luca D'Amico, but he's got a bit of work to do there. There he is in the bottom of your shot, and well, to top it all off, he's got a fellow Bentley trying to close him in as well. So we'll see what Rossi can do in his advancements for the race, because we haven't really seen much of him so far.
We haven't, no. It's the same with Gerhardt, actually. We haven't barely seen much of him, but he's just been quietly plugging away, and he is about 5 seconds off the back of Zabdil. There we go, there is Gerhardt. And he is, I think he's about to lap someone just in front, but yeah, he's just been plodding along in P5, doing well to keep there, just behind Zabdir, but he's very comfortably in front of Mikovic. I note that the last laps there, Blankenberg was a 2.7 on that lap, which is very, I think that's the fastest lap of the race so far, 2.7, but I may be wrong. Latkovsky went 3.1, and then the next fastest time was Felipe with a 3.9, so those two really are in a league of their own at the front at the moment. But yeah, looks like Rossi is catching. That gap is now under a second between him and Luca D'Amico, and Daniel may be joining him as well, so the Bentleys and the Ferrari might get a little bit of a tangle soon enough.
Had John Rice jumping straight out of the way. That was terrifying. But alas, is the case. Can confirm, by the way, to your point, it was Blankenberg that set the fastest lap of the race. That you can see there. Confirmation, it is purple for all you to see. Best lap, a 2:02.754. That is the fastest lap we've seen so far. And like you're quite right, pulling out about 4/10 of Cody Nikola Latkovsky. This is where it's kind of like you're having to ask the questions. Is Latkovsky being really, like, insanely patient right now? And yeah, this is if that is the case, this is an insanely difficult thing to do, to be that patient. Or is he absolutely on the limit of this car, and this is just as fast as Latkovsky can go? I don't know, and that's kind of like that's the joy of this. But right now, all things being equal, as pace is, Blankenberg is faster. He's pulled out another 0.6 of a second on the previous lap alone. A 2:02.8 plays a 2:03.4 that Latkovsky did. I mean, when you're getting into the twos once, that's great. Doing it on back-to-back laps, Zach, that just shows how hooked up this car is.
It wasn't a fluke, and the pace is there for sure from Blankenberg. A bit of a twitch on the exit of turn number 2, though. So yeah, maybe he is driving the car a little bit on the limit. Maybe he's just been given a second wind. Maybe he's been put into the race lead after his strategical call and has just motivated himself to drive faster. Maybe it's the inverse for Cody Nikola Latkovsky in the sense that maybe he's a bit demoralized after the pit stops. Maybe his pace has taken a hit. The two Italians of Rossi and D'Amico swap around as well in that fight for 7th. But yeah, in terms of strategies up here, who knows what's going on? You could be right. Is the Audi being a bit more patient, waiting for that speed towards the latter stage of the stint? But he is, playing a bit risky. I don't know. I guess the only way we're going to find out is in 45 minutes' time when they cross the checkered flag, which one of them is going to cross it first. Is it going to come down to an out-and-out brawl? Is it going to come down to a mistake? There are so many different variables to consider when it comes to races like this, and I guess that's the fun of it.
It is, and I was just thinking, if Blankenberg won, would I get my first T-shirt?
No.
No. Okay, right. I'm not that invested then.
You can get a sticker, a gold star, maybe.
Get a sticker?
A gold
I'll get a sticker.
star. Oh my
Gold
goodness.
I'll get them for my A levels. But Grunig is fighting. It's the Swissman side by. Oh, it's not. It's Parran there. I apologise. He was fighting for the wrong position, but he's got through Parran on Grunig there, up into P11 then for the Belgian, and I think Cheval also is very close behind the Frenchman. A little bit of a oh, actually, Jonas. That doesn't. Might be a Dutch Belgian now. I was about to say a French-speaking 11, 12, 13th, but I think I might be wrong. French-speaking, well actually, Grunig German.
They might speak German, but Grunig is definitely more of the German side of things.
I looked at Cheval also, and I looked at the flags, and I thought, that could be interesting, but no, that's just an absolutely awful.
Well, that one backfired, didn't it, mate?
I'm too Frenched up in my brain after doing French.
Je m'appelle la piscine. Yes.
Your name is the swimming pool.
My name is the swimming pool. You're absolutely right. That's about the only French I know, to be honest. D'Amico having a few more problems with the car, as kind of expected. The front end not particularly tracking well. He's just trying to get through to the end of the race. Lost out to Rossi recently, losing out to Peter Daniel as well. So the Italian dropping back, has around about 6 seconds back to Witterick, and then has around about plenty of time really, about 15 seconds back towards Parran. So, but a top 10 is still on the cards for D'Amico if he can just keep it on the road, and that is the important thing at the moment. Things are stabilising towards the front as well. 203.2 on the last lap from Blankenberg, 203.2 on the last lap from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. So there is a bit of equilibrium there. Does that mean that it's going to start swinging its way back towards the Macedonian? Well, we'll find out in about 5 or 10 minutes' time to see what that gap kind of ends up being. If it continues to grow after this, I am fearing for the chances of Latkovsky. But the first and second sector, Zach, seem to be pretty equal between the top two.
Yeah, a little bit quicker from Latkovsky, a 33.4 relative to a 33.5. Then it's matched in the middle sector at 111.4 as yellow flags. There's Cheval Urso
it's
and
all of
Grunig.
our French people, apparently.
The quote-unquote French, yeah. Well, there we go. That is not fantastic from all of them involved. Let's put it that way.
That's nice. That's
Gracias.
terrible. Gracias.
Well,
Very French.
I mean, looking up for Latkovsky and Blankenberg, they've got such a gap off. It's a near tea-making window between them and getting off the podium. So they've gained so much time to Zabdir and the rest that they are very comfortable up there, even if they had a big off like D'Amico had a little while back. But yeah, Blankenberg, he looks in control, doesn't he? I mean, he's only 200ths in it between them on that lap, but Latkovsky a 10th faster through sector 1 on this lap.
A tea-making gap, though. That's
a tea-making gap.
That's,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, no. To be fair, it depends how long it takes to boil a kettle. To be honest. That is the bigger thing in all of this. There is a look at the defensive line being taken by Rossi, and that will probably mean that Daniel's going to almost get through to the first corner. Alas, misjudging it a little bit, almost getting into the rear end of the Bentley. The only car that can push a Bentley off the circuit is another Bentley, and that is why they are big bad Bentleys. We'll have to wait and see how these two go around that. By the way, I did want to say a little earlier, Bozo has retired from this race. The driver that had made up the most positions, another one to add to the retirement list. There is the retirements, Espinalt, as well as the two Mackenbergs, Kunze, Egan and Hussein, all retiring from this race, as we'll keep our eye very much on this fight for 7th position, well inside the top 10 right now as we head it into the cutting. A little bit earlier on the brakes is Peter Daniel, means he's going to hook up the apex just a touch earlier, brushing the wall almost on the inside. I'm going to say the Czech driver's looking the faster between the pair at the moment, but passing around Bathurst is not an easy feat as off the racing line goes Rossi.
Indeed so. Just look at how menacing that Bentley is, and as you say, the only thing that can scare a Bentley is another Bentley. Ooh, a little bit skittish, working their way through now, through a bit of a dip through the very fast left-hander before you get yourself into Skyline. And well, who is going to come out on top on the Bentley, on Bentley action through the dippers? And once again, an obscene amount of lock having to be taken in that Bentley. Sparks fly, of course, as Rossi bridges the gap just a little bit going into Forrest's elbow. A little bit tight on the line though, and that might swing the advantage to the way of the Czech driver of Daniel. If he can put his foot down, maybe he can close the gap just a little bit. But you have to say, Yeah, no, yeah, who knows? But a half a second deficit with the same cars, that's going to be quite difficult on Slipstream alone, surely.
Yeah, you'd think so. But I mean, Luca D'Amico has been sticking well with these guys. He's not really dropped very far off of the back. I say that, I think he's got another like half a second or so. But was that a change for position further up? Well, no, it's just my eyes. But Blankenberg again, another quarter of a second on Latkovsky on that lap. And he extends the lead. It's over 2 seconds now between the front two. And yeah, I think it's going to be getting a little bit nervous for Latkovsky. Because there's surely a little bit of pace in that Audi. But Blankenberg is performing wonderfully at the moment. Coming up to lap another car, I think that will... Yeah. So, he'll have to deal with him, but I don't think that'll be too much of an issue for the race leader. But, yeah, D'Amico doing well as they go side by side. The two Bentleys, these two are really going to be fighting out. Daniel still can't find a way through up Griffin's Bend, but will he try and send it up the mountain? We wait and see.
Yeah, see if there is going to be a move coming in from Daniel anytime soon. The Bentley on the Bentley. I mean, towards the front, unless Latkovsky is driving to a number, which is possible, but... Oh, goodness me, that was another snap from Peter Daniel. It is possible. It is just really, really difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's very much on the cards. Latkovsky's a great driver. It's not that driving to a number itself is difficult. It's that driving to a number while someone is pulling away from you, right? To not just go, oh, screw it, throw that in the bin, off we go. To not just like change tact and just go for it. That's the difficult side of it. Here is Cody Nikola Latkovsky with that lap traffic at Darth McGrath. Last lap time was a 2:03.1 from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. Last lap time from Blankenberg was a 2:03.1. So the two of them separated by nothing on lap time there, and that slipstream might well have assisted the Macedonian to close in once again. Once he starts braking underneath sort of like the second margin, it will actually become a little easier for Latkovsky, as he'll then be right within that slipstream bubble, which of course does affect you quite significantly going up Mountain Straight and then back down Conrod. So there are those kind of opportunities. It just depends on whether you weigh up the risk of pushing a little harder now to close in. Lap traffic moving over to the left-hand side as they race their way up towards McPhillamy.
Indeed so. Blankenberg doing a great job getting perilously close to all of the barriers. That's how you have to do it here at Mount Panorama. There is the Macedonian who is keeping the gap steady, but yeah, I mean, if he is driving to a number, then fair play to him. As you say, it's a skill in of itself to not let the racing driver in you take over and force you to close the gap. But again, is it not worth closing the gap to then have an easier time of hitting your number if you're in the slipstream? I don't know. I'm sure Cody Nikola Latkovsky knows how to tame the mountain because he'd done it last year, and he's a brilliant driver in of himself. So he knows a lot more than we do, and I'm sure in his head he's running through all the calculations as to how he can come out on top of this race. The Bentley on Bentley race, though, does not conclude anytime soon. Rossi and Peter Daniel fighting for 7th place as it stands. It's still Rossi ahead of Daniel. Just no matter what he does, he can't quite find a way through. It seems through the first sector, the gap closes. But then as soon as they sort of get to this point, through McPhillamy, through Skyline, the S's, the Dipper, that the gap starts to grow again. And unfortunately for Daniel, that's the one bit of the circuit he doesn't want it to grow, because the most important place to be close is out of Forest Elbow, through the Conroe Straight and into the chase.
Yeah, it certainly is, because that is where you can make the move stick most likely. Oh, but a bit wide. They're very wide from Sebastiano Rossi. Oh, it looks like the inside line for Daniel, but he can't quite find it. He's lost a little bit of momentum, but he is very close, and he will lose the slipstream. I was about to mention that Sebastiano Rossi had a great pit window, which is why he's up in front of his, in front of his, I would say, teammate. They're not teammates, of course, but they're in the same car, as Daniel is going to look for the inside line towards the chase. Are they going to be able to stick it side by side? The two Bentleys absolutely locked together, and they're swapping positions as they are completely side by side. Up and under maybe from Daniel, a little bit wide from Rossi. But is there any line? He gets pushed onto the curb, and he still can't find a way through. He's been going at this for a few laps now, and with D'Amico still sticking around, Vutric is also gaining a little bit. Again, he's a ways back, about 6 seconds or 6-7 seconds, but he is starting to pull in these two Bentleys somewhat because of the fighting that they are doing. So that's to watch out for, I think, come the end of the race. We'll have to see if he can catch.
Yeah, obviously do remember that D'Amico's car is damaged. That's why he's dropping back into the clutches of Vutric. So I'd
Yeah.
suspect there might well be a pass between those two soon. If they're not teammates, would they then be Mark mates? Yeah.
Car friends.
Car friends.
Ooh,
Car friends. Yeah, that's exactly what I was
car
thinking.
friends. Nice. Okay, yeah, fine. If it's a teammate and it's a car friend, perfect. So
Zach,
we've got.
I was playing it in my mind. I didn't want to say it, but what Zach said is exactly what was
Yeah.
running through my mind.
Yeah. All
Just
friends.
my voice didn't cooperate with me. The post-puberty voice grace did not want to play ball. But yeah, either way, good old icons of the UK. But nonetheless,
That is
neither of them
true.
are from the UK. Neither of them probably will know what the in-betweeners are. But who knows? I mean,
And let's be honest, a Bentley's barely a British car.
that's
so
true as
you know,
well.
it's basically German. Let's be honest. That's fine. It's I'm not angry. You're angry. But either way, Rossi still continues to. The thing is, every time Daniel's got really close to trying a move, I think the thing is he's mistiming the cutback almost always. We've seen this a couple of times going through the chase. Is that when he's getting that cutback, he's having the speed and then driving straight into the rear end of Rossi, or quite like as what we saw in the exit there of the chase section, drove off of the circuit, and as much as it kind of felt like he was being pushed wide, it was more that he just drove off of the track. This time, though, it could be the move that he's on for Peter Daniel. He's got the inside line as they head through the chase. Once again, absolutely foot to the floor, about 270k as they smash over the apex. He's going to run around the outside this time. Once again, tries the up and under. The line's being taken by Rossi, this time straight around the outside. Daniel's got the inside line as they head down towards the final corner at Murray's, and this could be the overtake, the attempt. The car friends are going for it, but it might not be enough. Once again, Rossi's just about hanging on around the outside through the final corner, but finally, after about 15, 20, 30 minutes of attempts, he's got his way through. That was a proper send, though, from Rossi.
Well, the car friends are not being very friendly at all, and now it's a drag race in towards Griffins. Unfortunately, Rossi's going to have to tuck into the slipstream and maybe utilise the hole in the air that Daniel is punching from. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to defend? He's committed now to the racing line. You can look very menacing in the rearview mirror. Pulls out to the right-hand side. Nearly enters the blind spot. Late on the brakes for Rossi. He's done it, but not quite able to make it stick.
And he's not. But a great bit of fighting between the two of them. It's been a few laps coming that Daniel was going to get past Sebastiano Rossi, but he's finally done it. But Sebastiano Rossi does not look like he's going to settle for 8th place here. He's going to go right after his he's a team again, his car friend, Peter Daniel. And I mentioned Florian Vutric, and he has gained a little bit there. He's only about 5 seconds now back from these two, and Luca D'Amico, of course, gaining, but with that car damage, he will struggle somewhat to find a way through. Meanwhile, Blankenberg's back in the 2-minute 2s. He's at 2.8 again. That might be just about the fastest lap, if not just off it. I think the fast lap is a 2 point. It's a 7.
2:27, yeah.
Yeah, so he's just a 10th off. I'm glad that graphic came up to save me somewhat. But yes, he's 6/10 quicker than Lapkowski again on that last lap, and he's absolutely hammer and tong pulling the gap, and he looks to be in control. But we have still got just over half an hour to go, and anything can happen in that half hour. I mean, for the first half hour of this race, we had Julian Kunze right up there, and now he isn't. So you never know what can happen in the last stages of this race.
Just remember as well that the part of the race where Latkovsky was really a lot faster than Blankenberg was in the final stages of that first stint. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll take a look then through the at least the top 10, because we did see Blankenberg there. We saw Cody Nicola Latkovsky have a little chat about Rui Felipe, who's just basically driving around by himself at the moment. He's had what I can only describe as quite an interesting opening, let's say 10 minutes, and then quite a boring hour and 20 afterwards. He's just been cruising around by himself, but let's be honest, laps around Bathurst never particularly boring. Mariusz Zabdi has worked his way up into 4th position. He's had to work hard for that one. Now finds himself 5 seconds clear of Gerhardt, who flew under the radar in the earlier stages, was running up in the podium, up in that kind of fight a bit earlier on. Alas, now 5th position. Mikiewicz behind that in 6th position, before we get to Peter Daniel after just getting past Sebastiano Rossi and pulling out almost 2 seconds already, has the Czech driver in 7th position. Like you say, flying at the moment. D'Amico just hanging on to 9th position. Vutric then in 10th being inside the top 10. The gap between those two coming down very, very slowly. For the last couple of laps, it's really been coming down by hundreds, if not thousands. D'Amico's finding his form with this damaged car after an issue earlier on in the race. A costly error from him, but alas, he does continue inside the top 10. Vitrick in 10th, then Parent, Chevrolet, Piatkowski, Grunig, Sen, Klur, then Hennig, Orban, Robinson and Gavin being those drivers that are currently going around and on the lead lap. I do believe Vigneron still on track, still tracking around, same with Rose. Freegang as well has rejoined the race. Runai in 25th before we get to our string of retirements outside of that top 25. Espan Holt Bozo, then Sven and Marvin Maccabee, Julian Kunze, Egan and Hussein being our 32 drivers for the day. Our race leader at the moment is Blankenberg. And I don't know about you, he is looking a little hard to beat right now.
He's been bulletproof ever since the pit stops, ever since he took the lead of the race. I mean, ever since his fallback in the opening sort of 20-25 minutes of the race, he's been on a redemption arc since. And that started with closing the gap, then it started with getting the lead of the race, and now it's beginning with trying to extend it. However, a bit of lap traffic does see the gap come down nearly a second. Now as Cody Nicola-Lotowski gets that gap in, it's going to climb obviously as they leave the corner, probably going to stabilize around 2.5 seconds, but nonetheless it's time lost that Blankenberg didn't need to lose, but maybe the slipstream could aid him in growing that gap back up once again. But that's how quickly it can change. No matter how good Blankenberg's second stint has been, it can all come unraveled. A rogue lapped car, a poor rejoin from one of them, a mistake on his own part, all of those things. Cody Nicola-Lotowski, while he's not close enough to put any pressure on, he's close enough to really capitalize if even the most marginal things go wrong for the race leader.
He can, and yeah, he has gained a little bit of time through there. I think Blankenberg gained a bit of time with the slipstream off the bat of Hennig, who he did lap there. He's got to lap Ludovic Claire soon for P16, but I do reckon at the rate they're going, they can probably lap everyone at least up to Jonas Parren in P11 here. So that is still a few more cars that they will come across by the end who may interfere just a little bit with the fight at the front, may fluctuate the gap between the top two, and that'll be interesting to see. But there you can see Blankenberg getting through, and I think this might be very opportunistic from Hennig, and I think it is, and it's a very good move. It saw that Leclerc decided to let Blankenberg through at Griffin's Bend and took a lovely exit and capitalised and took P16, albeit just about a lap down. But here comes Lapkowski, and he will be held up by these two seemingly, as he's absolutely flying through as he arrives on the scene.
Yeah, obviously Cody Nicola-Lotowski could take an awful lot of risk throwing it through this traffic at the moment, trying to gain whatever he can. Obviously Blankenberg might have lost a little bit of time to traffic, so Latkovsky has to gain it back, but unfortunately this is going to be a little awkward heading through the bottom part as they head through the dip and pulling over to the right hand side. Lap traffic will go and then firing his way through. Probably did lose a tenth or two on the exit of the dipper, and that's just sometimes how it goes. Gap, it will hover around between that 2.5 to 3 second margin. You can see there, right hand side just going over the crest now. That is his target, but that target isn't close enough, and nor is it getting any closer, and nor is that timer at the top left of your screen getting any longer. There is not really that long left to go in this race. Arguably around about 13 laps of racing left to go. That's not really that long, Zach. And when those kind of laps start to fade away, when your opportunities in the race start to fade away, you start running out of time. And then you start getting desperate. You start throwing it in a little harder. You start asking too much for the car. You start throwing this car as hard as you possibly can, potentially asking too much of yourself around here. And that could potentially be on the cards for Cody Nicola-Lotowski, or it could be in for a barnstorming final. Who knows?
Yeah, there's one way to find out, I suppose, but you're exactly right. Desperation is one of the biggest killers when it gets to this stage in the race, especially at a circuit like Bathurst. It's true wherever you go. You could go to, quote-unquote, the easiest circuit in the world, and it would still play a factor. At Bathurst, it's even worse, because when you push the limits, if you overstep the mark, it could ruin your race entirely. Obviously, you can see it from Cody Nicola-Lotowski's perspective, in the sense that he dominated essentially the first stint, and then after that he's fallen off a little bit. He does want to get himself back into race leading contention and might find himself 10 minutes time feeling the pressure and being like, hey, hang on guys, yeah, driving to the numbers not really doing me much good. I've got to find something else and close the gap. But he's also got to close the gap and find a way through, and also keep it all within this short window of time, less than a quarter of the race left to go. Time really is not on the Macedonian side. But also on the flip side of that, this is probably going to be the longest 25 minutes of Blankenberg's life.
Yes, and I mean, just about 600th Zlatkovsky's got on this lap. It's not too much through the middle sector at all, but he might be starting to find a little bit of pace. But again, you were talking about the desperation setting in. He did have a T braking gap to Rui Felipe. It's now looking more like a Lou break, 26 seconds back to the Portuguese driver in third. So he has got quite a large gap to play with. This. Well, if he does make a mistake, he's staring second in the face, unless he absolutely totals the car somewhere, probably right at the top of the hill. But he looks like he is losing a little bit of time in this final sector. It's about 3 seconds, the gap between these two. And it'll be interesting to see if they can pull it out a bit. But yeah, I think Blankenberg's just about to come up to his BWT Blue Water Team friend of Roland Sen, as they both are in a similarly liveried car. But Sen is on himself fighting with Grönig as well, the Swissman there. But yeah, still a lot can happen in these last 24 minutes, can't it?
Oh yeah, oh they certainly can. That is the joy of a circuit like this. Heading through the foreground, a shot there was Blankenberg. You're absolutely right. When you come up to some back markers, you're hoping they're going to be a little easier with you, but when they're fighting for position, they're focused on that. I do think though that Grönig has a fair amount of damage on his car. You can see there on the front end. There is Roland Sen. So actually, I was completely wrong. Blankenberg's actually cleared past these pair already. But it does seem as though Grönig's got a fair amount of damage on the front of his car. I think Roland Sen's feeling particularly great on his tyres based on how he was driving. Let's take a look at the front of that car. Just front right. Could obviously be more on the connection side of things, but alas, might just be some damage. It's just really impressive how comfortable Blankenberg is with the track limits. Saw him come through, obviously seen him go through Skyline every single time. He's leaving millimeters to the wall, and I mean, don't get me wrong, that's how much you should be leaving to the wall, but it is tiny margins. And trust me, when you're hooking up, you might think he's taking so much risk every single lap. Colin Blankenberg, I almost guarantee you at the moment, will probably be somewhere near autopilot. Every time he's going over the mountain, it's just sort of like deep breath, right, there we go. Left, right, yep, left, right, and back onto and that's it, breathe. Genuinely, it would just be like that every single lap. It's not as much thought as you think, because he's just so focused on what is going on. Oh my goodness me, that was a miscommunication if ever I've seen it. Roland Sen, see ya.
Yeah, in a bit, mate. That was, dodgy. I mean, Grönig did the right thing of allowing the Audi through, but yeah, pulling back onto the racing line probably wasn't the best thing to do in that regard. But yeah, in terms of Blankenberg, I think he is, as you say, he's got the rhythm. He's into the swing of things. The tyres are in a nice window. He's leading the race. He's feeling good. He's got the confidence. And we were talking about how confidence is the biggest boost around Bathurst. And obviously, when it comes to quote-unquote endurance style races where consistency reigns above, we often talk about how maybe the drivers are driving below their limit, sort of 80-85% of their capacity. And some are saying, no, I feel less comfortable driving slower. It's better when you're on the limit, because at least then sort of that's what you're used to.
Indefinitely. And I mean, you look how close Blankenberg gets to the wall there and there again. He's not leaving much margin for error at the front of this race. I mean, he's nearly completed a half century of laps here as he's coming back down through the S's and the dipper. But I mean, that gap is still large. 300ths he lost in that first sector, but that won't alarm him too much. These two still 0.3 faster in the first sector alone than Rui Felipe. I mean, they're in a world of their own. It was a 3.1 for Blankenberg and a 2.9 for Latkovsky on the last lap, and then the next fastest time is a 4.3, I believe, back at Jonas Gerhardt, and that's what 1.5 seconds nearly between Latkovsky and Gerhardt's time. So they really are just absolutely in a world of their own at the front of this race, and we have to see if Latkovsky can start pulling in Blankenberg, and whether, because obviously, I mean, it's an overused saying, but it's very true in this regard. It's one thing, and especially at Bathurst, sorry, it's one thing to catch, it's another thing to overtake, and we've seen it here. Daniel took, what, 5-6 laps to overtake Rossi? And it's going to be difficult for Latkovsky to really find a way through, I think.
Certainly so. Just going to take a look at the lap times they're just setting now. It's a 2:03.232 and a 2:03.138. So only actually a tenth between them on the previous lap time. But again, some decent traffic. Pitkovsky will be the next one. Then Chevalier. So, and all you're doing when you're sat behind the wheel right now is you are praying, please let me through before we get onto this mountain section, especially considering how good over the top Blankenberg's been going over the top of the mountain. He has been throwing this Mercedes as hard as he can over the top, and when you have a car ahead of you, even this, all he's thinking about is, where is this car going to be through here? How fast is this car going to hit this apex? Oh, they're out wide, they're into the barrier. Now I have to slow down, I've got to go over to the right. Yes, you might not have actually lost that much of time doing it, but it is distracting. Brush the wall a little bit between Reed and Solomon Park up through McPhillamy now, and the pressure's starting to build. Blankenberg's been dealing with it brilliantly, perfectly, almost, you have to say. But it's those bits of lap traffic, any sort of misjudgment through those, that is what is going to cost you in a day like this, in a race like this. There is not long left to go for him to hang on. Roughly, 9 laps, including this one. Just got to keep ticking them off.
One by one. Keep it going, keep doing what you're doing, don't change a thing, really. Just, it's been working for so far, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. Don't speed up, don't slow down, stay exactly as you are, because if you change anything, you disrupt the chakras, I don't know, you disrupt the mood, disrupt the rhythm, and that could be disastrous. However, as Cody Nikola Latkovsky negotiates his way through traffic, the flip side of things, as we say, he is one that has to change something. He has to find something else, just that extra couple of attempts a lap in order to close the gap to Blankenberg if he wants any chance of the race win, because as we've been saying, with each lap that goes by, with each corner that goes by, that is one less opportunity for him to gain time on Blankenberg, and it's also one less opportunity for him to get the move done. So these are going to be two very polar opposite 17 minutes to round off what has been a brilliant 2 hours of Bathurst.
It really has, and it's been give and take a little bit, gone this way, gone that way, but Blankenberg does look like he's in control with only 17.5 minutes to go. I mean, they've got a very large gap now up to the next lap car, which will be Jonas Parren, and they've got at least another, 12 seconds or so of time before they catch the Belgian driver. But Jonas Parren, I mean, he's the loneliest man on the racetrack at the moment. I mean, he's got 18 seconds to Vutric in front of him and 16 seconds to Chevalier also behind him. So he's a little bit of no man's land. But I think by the end of the race, Blankenberg and Latkovsky might stumble across him at some stage. But I mean, as we tick over, Felipe is now half a minute behind Latkovsky. And Zabdi, I mean, there's only 6 drivers within a minute of the leader now, and only 11 on the lead lap as well. So it really has been an impressive display, particularly from the top 2.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Blankenberg and Latkovsky, they've both been a class of the field. Absolute class of the field in this race. Maybe Julian Kunze would have been in the same sort of vein. But yeah, we'll never really know. I wonder if that mistake, by the way, is kind of like lingering a little bit in Blankenberg's mind. Obviously, he did have one going through McPhillamy earlier on. He has lost a bit of time in the third and final sector this lap, because it is down to 2 seconds. Obviously, it could be a legacy of the timing. We do see, obviously over a lap it will ebb and flow, just courtesy of how the timing system works. He did. I say it was the final sector. It was actually in the middle sector. He lost about 3-4 tenths of a second going through that middle sector on the lap just gone. Could this be the tyres going? Lost a little bit in the first as well. Lap time completed a 2:03.5, a 2:02.9 from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. 16 minutes left to go. There is the opportunity here for the Macedonian to get there, but as has been said by Darazak, that getting to them is one thing, getting past is very, very, very different around a circuit like this.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, just going back to what Yuval Rosen said, he's a driver that joins us quite often in these RaceRoom events. He's on the sidelines today. A little bit earlier on, just before the pit stops, he put in the YouTube chat about how Cody is a master with tyre wear, and that the Mercedes actually uses tyres quite quickly. So if he is, a little bit slower, it might just be the case that it's by choice, and he's waiting for this moment for Blankenberg's tyres to potentially hit a cliff that he can then reclose the gap. I don't know. It's a possibility. Maybe that Mercedes has burnt through his tyres, building up the gap, knowing that second win from the Audi R8. I guess, again, we don't entirely know. We're getting a good picture of it now, with maybe the gap starting to close down. But when it's that's sideways, that's going to lose him at least over half a second. At least. That was a good catch, but not a great mistake to make, especially when it's squeaky bum time in the final 15 minutes.
I was going to say, I think he got a little bit out of shape at the top of the mountain, and just followed him all the way through. He's lost a second now, I think, as a result of that mistake so far. That gap is now only 1.3 seconds. I mean, it's closing. And yeah, if that's to be believed, what you said, Zach, that the tyres will go off on the Mercedes possibly quicker, Latkovsky has got a chance. I mean, I said it 14 minutes ago. We've got 14 minutes to go now, but a lot can happen in 28 minutes, and a lot can happen in these 14 minutes, because Blankenberg and Latkovsky, they're two of the closest drivers on track. We've got a couple of battles through the field, but I mean, there's D'Amico and Vutric. There's only about half a second between them, but outside of that, these two are the closest in the top half of the field that remain. And it is looking like it could get a little bit spicy with the final 7-8 laps that we've got.
Yes.
7, yeah.
It's definitely going to be 7 laps. Left to go, 1.3 seconds. Pressure's building on Blankenberg, and he's starting to feel that. I do know, I mean, the Audi R8 is pretty heavy on its tyres. When you have a driver like Cody Nikola Latkovsky, that can, balance that one out. He played his cards brilliantly, particularly towards the end of that first stint. That's the thing, is I think like the Audi kind of went off a little bit through the middle of that first stint, but then just sort of plateaued, and then as the Merc went off, it went off harder than the Audi did originally. Let's see if there's going to be any mistakes this time from Blankenberg. He had a big snap going through, like say, the likes of Skyline, going through the edges, and then particularly that one on the exit of the Dipper. Let's take a look, and again, you can see steering inputs going over about 90 degrees left, heading through McPhillamy. If he's building that confidence back up. Yeah, he's not leaving much gap to the walls. And I kind of get the feeling that they're the odd blip here and there, but when you're having odd blips with someone like Cody Nikola Latkovsky behind you, it just doesn't work. Let's see what it's like on the exit of Forest Elbow. Much, much smoother, and that for Blankenberg will be so reassuring as being a big weight off his shoulders, a big deep breath, a big deep inhale to go, right, I've nailed it there. I just need to do that 6 more times over the mountain, and this race is surely mine.
Yeah, well, saying it's one thing, doing it's another, and yeah, again, sometimes drivers are their own worst enemies, particularly their thoughts, what creeps into their head, what then destroys their confidence, destroys them brick by brick, bringing them back down in terms of their overall morale. And potentially that is what is happening to Blankenberg, but he needs to have the mental resilience to, to resist his thoughts and just do what he's been doing so well for the last 50 minutes of this race, which is drive the absolute wheels off that Mercedes. And yes, the threat of the Macedonian is a little bit more on his shoulders now, but it doesn't change a thing. Limit the mistakes, drive within your limits, but still drive quickly, and it should, fall into his hands essentially. But again, there's not really that long left, and I guess for Blankenberg it's a case of don't mess up that badly with so little left to go. It's one thing doing what we saw a little bit earlier on with Kenzo, with the sense that he made the mistake into the final corner. It's another thing to do that and sort of be like, a DNF with an hour and a half left to go. It's another thing to do it with 10 minutes left to go when you're in a race-leading position. The absolute guttedness feeling that Blankenberg would feel if he messed it up now.
Yeah, but he looks to be keeping it solid. I mean, on that last lap, he only lost about a tenth to Latkovsky, and if he kept it at that kind of pace, that would be beneficial to him, but a little bit sideways out of there. It's middle sector, and it's only 200 splitting them so far in this lap as they come through Forest's Elbow once again and back down to the Conrod Straight. But Blankenberg, surely, without a mistake here, if he just keep, like Lewis, you said it about a minute ago, I mean, if he just keeps it solid, surely this race is won. And I mean, even with a massive off, they've got 37 seconds back to Rui Felipe and 48 back to Zabdir, who's just off of the podium. So it really is looking good. I think, I don't know if you've mentioned it, but Utrecht, I think, has got through on D'Amico for P9, as that was to be somewhat expected because of that damage that he had. But I think that should be where the rot stops for the Italian. But less than 10 minutes to go then here. Can Latkovski pull it? I think he's pulled in just a little bit more this lap as they cross the line. Let's see what the last lap times were. It was it was 300th quicker for Colin Blankenberg. Just a 3.13 and a 3.16 for the two of them.
Yeah, Blankenberg's, I mean, he's stopped his own rot. Obviously, you say there of D'Amico. I mean, Blankenberg's also recovering himself a little bit in this race. It's not been that the final wave is over. They've got 30 more kilometres of this race with 5 laps left to go. There is not long for this Mercedes to hang on for race victory. But is it going to be the case? Bit of a slide there, I'm feeling, and a bit of a slide there, I'm feeling. You can see Blankenberg is pushing his car to the limit. Now, when that happened before, we saw another couple of mistakes over the top of the mountain. We saw one there going through Quarry and up towards Reed Park. There are mistakes coming in. He still seems to be fast enough. The problem is that these mistakes, you can only have so many before the car goes, nah, mate, we are visiting a barrier, before you can ask, hang on a sec, what's just happened? Out wide going through the final part through the S's, still manages to wrestle it to the apex at where he had his very large moment earlier on, and still only losing 1/10 of a second there over the mountain, despite all those issues. The problem is, these kind of issues, they snowball, don't they, Zach? You get your tyres overheated, you get them worn out more. It means you've got to work them harder, means they overheat more, means they wear more, means your problems get worse, and it gets worse and worse and worse from there. Let's see if Blankenberg can stabilise and carry on through the final 4 laps.
It really is sort of that point of no return, as you say, sort of the snowball, the positive feedback loop in a negative sense relative to Blankenberg. The tyres get hot, they slide, they get hot. It's just a coagulation of not greatness for the Mercedes. And yeah, well, it's all coming downhill. And I suppose the irony in that is the fact that his issues come when he is going downhill through the mountain. And with such little time left to go, the final few laps of this race, less than a second is the gap back to Cody Nicola Latowski. That has been creeping down bit by bit, but now I have to say the Audi R8 might just have latched his toe hook onto the rear spoiler of that Mercedes, and now it's just a case of reeling him in bit by bit, applying the pressure, getting inside his head, filling that rear view mirror, playing the mental game, and who knows what could come out of this race, because at one point 20 minutes ago we were convinced it was going to go the way of the German. Now we're not so sure.
It's going to be difficult for Blankenberg in the next couple of minutes. I think he's coming up to Jonas Parent, and he's coming up to Michael Freigang, who is a couple of laps down now in the German, sorry. So I think there might be a little bit of doubt creeping into Blankenberg. You can see them just in front here. It's going to put Blankenberg off ever so slightly as he comes over Skyline. And it'll come down through the S's. Yeah, not getting out of the way is Freigang. Look at how much speed Blankenberg arrives on the scene with. He's going to lose so much time through here. Look at the gap. It's down to 4/10. It'll be absolutely nothing as they exit this mountain section. And he's still not out of the way, which means that Latkovski is going to be right on the back of him as they exit Forest's Elbow. And Blankenberg has really lost a chunk of time through there. He's not going to be a happy bunny, I don't think.
No, the problem is as well is that if Latkovski gets through, I guarantee Latkovski is gone. Latkovski is deciding to bump draft the lap traffic of Freigang here rather than going through. The inside lines being taken. I feel really bad for Freigang, as that was beautifully worked from Latkovski, who judged it perfectly. Freigang getting in the way to the frustration of Blankenberg. It is a brilliant masterclass from the Macedonian. I do feel a little bit bad from Freigang, who was just involved in the middle of it. But of course, Blankenberg sent one straight down the inside of the final corner. There's going to be a brush between the two of them. This is not over, Zach.
It is not, continuing to go side by side. Lutovski's got the outside line going in towards turn number 1, but once more late on the brakes from the Mercedes. He has not given it up without a fight. Outside line for the Audi R8, gets his foot put to the floor, and now he's starting to drive away. The gap grows. Blankenberg tucks in. Is there any form of a counter-attack going into Griffins?
I don't think there is, but he might send it late into Griffins. We've seen it the last 2 braking zones. Is he going to be able to do it once again? It has to be the outside line. You're going to be difficult to find a good run through there. And a massive slide on the exit, and he's going to lose all the time. And I think, and I fear, that might be Nikola Latovsky up the road, and he might just about hold on to win this race from here. But Blankenberg is surely going to give it all he's got.
I can see this ending one of 2 ways for Blankenberg. Either he closes back up to Latkovsky and gets back through, or he's backwards. You know Blankenberg is going to be pushing right now. He has been patient through this race, but he has timed his run so well. He will be furious. Oh my goodness me! Who was that? There will surely be damage. There will surely be damage on the front of Latkovsky. There is Baron, who was backwards, coming back across the road, obviously completely out of control. Nothing he could do. And Latkovsky, the unfortunate recipient of that car, heading straight back over the road ahead of him. This race is still on.
It really is. It's just more drama on top of more drama. The pile is getting massive. Blankenberg now, arguably, he's got to pounce while Cody Nikola Latovsky is still vulnerable. Up over the crest through the Conrod Straight. He's closing. Is it enough to go for the move into the chicane? Coming close onto one of the final laps. Inside, outside. Which way is he going to go? He's going to search for the gap. He's going to squeeze his way through. However, the door gets shut. Through the chase, he has to tuck back in. Bit of a slide as he works his way through. Well defended from the Macedonian, but into the final corner once more. Is there any space? No, there's not. He's got to be brave on the brakes, but he's not got the grip to go to the outside.
He's gone to the outside. He's gone a little bit wide onto the grass, is Blankenberg, but he does look like Latkovsky with a little bit of damage on the front might be a little bit damaging for him. Parron and Hennig, I think, have come together. Yes, they have. All big way backwards there for Parron. He's had an absolutely horrible lap there, the Belgian who has dropped back. But I remember I saw the yellow flag pop up, and I saw that it was Jonas Parron. I thought it couldn't get in the way of these two. But Latkovsky, the unlucky man in the incident, can Blankenberg find an outside line? He might try the up and under a little bit, a grip off the corner, but another slide out of Griffin's Bend, and he's really struggling to keep the rear end in check.
Yeah, both of these are leaving absolutely nothing on the table. Snaps of oversteer from the pair of them leaving Griffin's Bend. Snaps from the rear end as they head into the cutting. This is a fantastic end to this 2-hour race, the Bathurst 2-hour ranked event here on RaceRoom. We're seeing 2 of the very best pushing each other to the limit on one of the hardest racetracks in sim racing and motorsport. Absolutely phenomenal between the pair of these two who have been class of the field. Out wide though goes Cody Nikola Latkovsky going through Skyline. This could be a mega send from the Mercedes. He sent one in there, a big slide, and somehow Cody Nikola Latkovsky catches it with the most outrageous, phenomenal move from Blankenberg to retake the lead of the penultimate lap.
Oh my goodness me. I am left speechless. That was brilliant, sensational stuff from Blankenberg to retake the race lead on his last legs in terms of an arsenal to throw at the Macedonian in the fight for the race lead. We're on the penultimate lap. Next time by will be the final time by. Cody Nikola Latovsky is throwing everything at this. Both of these guys want it dearly. Only one of them can come out on top. Who's it going to be? The Audi R8 not quite close enough into the chase, but you have to say he is not going to go down without a couple of swings thrown at Blankenberg. One more time around the mountain. Who is it going to be? Blankenberg, Cody Nikola Latovsky. Both of them have fought dearly for it. Both of them arguably deserve it. But who is going to cross the checkered flag first?
You're going to have to give praise to Cody Nikola Latkovsky there. That save midway, I think it was in the dipper. I don't know how he managed to hold onto the car and keep it out of the wall there, because that really would have been curtains to his challenge. But I'm not sure. Griffin's Bend, he's a long way back, 7/10. He's going to really struggle, I think, to find a move for the rest of this lap. And Colin Blankenberg is going to be counting his lucky stars. And I think he's going to have to get some kind of gift to Jonas Parron at the end of this race, because he has been absolutely gifted an opportunity that he is taking with both hands at the moment.
Yeah, but the thing is, he was out wide. I still think the tyres are slightly better, despite that damage on the front of the Audi R8. We're seeing a couple of snaps once again. Zach, I mean, do you think he can do it right now? Do you think he can hang on? There's so much pressure on the shoulders of the Mercedes of Blankenberg right now. One more trip over the mountain for the two of these to traverse, and right now they are on the absolute limit.
They are. How much more can these cars take? How much more can these drivers take? It all comes down really to who gets the better run at Forest Elbow, who can defend the line going into the chase. Bit of a twitch there from the Macedonian, able to hang on to it once more. Not long left to go in this race. It comes down to this.
It's been such a good challenge from Nikola Laktowski in this second stint after Blankenberg got the jump. But Blankenberg just looks like he's on a lovely, lovely exit out of Forest Elbow. And he will probably be very happy sitting in the cockpit right now because he only needs another 2 braking zones to go to take the win in this Bathurst 2 hour.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal between the pair of these two. It has come down to this. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any final opportunity for Cody Nikola Latkovsky. He's thrown everything into this race. Potentially, you could argue he got exceptionally unlucky through all that, but what a send it was from Blankenberg. Took his opportunity over the top of the mountain in one of the craziest moves I think we've ever seen in any of the ranked races, and it leaves him with victory coming out of the final corner. Colin Blankenberg will cross the line, the victor on the mountain, after a phenomenal fight between Blankenberg and Cody Nikola Latkovsky. The winner a year ago comes up 1 position short after just an absolute 2-hour battle on one of the hardest tracks in sim racing. Rui Felipe will copy and paste the drive from 12 months ago to come across the line in 3rd place. Bit of a world of his own, 30 seconds down on the top 2, who were absolutely class of the field. But you got to say, shout out to Rui Felipe, who's just kept himself clean through the race. He'll cross the line in 3rd, and a very well-deserved podium indeed. Mariusz Zabdir working his way up the order to 4th, and Gerhardt to cross the line inside the top 5. What a race, though, between Blankenberg and Cody Nikola Latkovsky. You got to say, phenomenal stuff between the two of them. And from all of us here in the comedy booth, thank you so much between the pair for putting on a display like that.
We are so grateful for that. Oh my word. What a finish. What a way to round things off here. Blankenberg, Nikola Latkovsky, both of them on the limit. And that is what you love to see. 2 amazing drivers, the top echelon of RaceRoom esports, and they gave their all. They fought their heart out on circuit, and that's all we could ask for. It didn't come down to a spin, didn't come down to a crash or anything like that. It came down to who was the better driver, who played their cards right, a 2-hour showdown, and wow, I mean, that could have gone either way. Blankenberg's going to be delighted with it. Cody Nikola Latkovsky is probably going to be thrilled with the fight. Disappointed maybe not to get the win, but I'm smiling ear to ear, and I'm sure everyone watching along as well. Whoever you were supporting in that race, you cannot deny that was one to remember.
I mean, Colin Blankenberg, he sat back in that first stint. He made a little bit of a mistake on the back of the 2 leaders of Latkovsky and Kunze. But when Kunze retired from the race, he pulled back up to Latkovsky and then took his chance in the pit lane as he gained a few seconds there, which gave him the lead. And from there, what an impressive drive. I mean, he did get overtaken by Latkovsky, but he took his opportunity and he wins the race.
Yeah, 1.2 seconds clear. Blankenberg will be over Nikola Latkovsky, setting the fastest lap of the race as well. Once again, proving how much of a class of the field the pair at the front of the field were. Rui Felipe in 3rd position, Mariusz Zabdir in 4th, Gerhardt in 5th, Mikiewicz as well behind all of that. Then we get Peter Daniel, Rossi, Vutric, Miko as well, who I will say did really well late on to kind of look after what was a very broken car and kind of get what he could out of the race. Piatkowski in 11th position, then Grunig, Sen, Chevel Urso, Klur, Hennig, Gra, then Gevin, Vigneron, and of course Robinson in 20th position. Rose, Freigang, Parren, Ronai as well in 24th position before we get to the likes of Orban, Espenholt, Bozo, Mackenberg. Both Sven and Marvin retirements from the race. Julian Kunze, Egan and Hussein. And once again, we can see our podium here. Very, very well-deserved podium there, Zach. I don't think we can throw any more superlatives, particularly towards the top 2.
Yeah, we're going to get purple in the face talking about how good that race was. Colin Blankenberg, Cody Nikola Lutovsky, couldn't ask for more. Rui Felipe, by the way, he was there. Let's not forget, the Portuguese driver was driving around the same circuit for 2 hours, just in a world of his own. He was just chilling in third place. Amazing stuff. Pat on the backs all around from all involved, because it is not easy to tame Bathurst over one lap, let alone upwards of 60 that we got for the entire race. It was nothing short of brilliance. And what a spectacle that we got. RaceRoom always delivers.
And Dara, I mean, your first time there on this on RaceRoom broadcasts. Talk to us about how you kind of felt about that one.
Well, I mean, you did warn me very cheekily pre-race that it might be a little bit boring, but it was anything but boring. There was action all the way through the race, and I mean, an incredible work from Colin Blankenberg. And you wrote about an hour ago the final thing, I would say, which was I predicted Colin Blankenberg would win that race.
No, I was going to talk about that. Of course he is. That's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I am going to say, obviously, you can see here on your screen right now the content roadmap for 2023. These are things that are coming out, of course, very soon. Will be the BMW M4 GT3 coming out fairly soon. Obviously, we need to get rid of the BMW M6, sadly enough, but alas, BMW M4 onto the platform. Having a few new Porsches as well joining, along with the Circuit de Pau, obviously one of the most famous street circuits in France, one of the longest living street circuits as well, before some stuff towards Christmas. You know that now that RaceRoom is a fantastic place to come and do some ranked racing online on the service. There is plenty of racing going on all of the time, including these kind of events that happen pretty much every now and then you can join us in the commentary booth, or you can be out on there on the race circuit and really show us what you've got. Are you going to be jumping on there? Are you going to be seeing you on the racetrack anytime soon? No.
Unlikely.
Unlikely.
But you know, I will if I have the ability to. I very happily will. This is not I don't want to, but it's more of a I don't know if I can. If I can, I very much will, because it looks like a lot of fun.
A little sneaky preview of some of the Porsches and stuff coming out as well. This is the broadcast director Christo. Captain Coffee's got some little treats for all of us after what has been a very, very long 2 hours, and a little cheeky look at Pau, which, by the way, I've got to say, great track. I actually quite like Pau. Little tricky, but it is a lot of fun. And to be fair, I've said this before when it comes to RaceRoom. When it comes to street circuits, like, for example, Macau, which isn't really represented anywhere properly in the world of sim racing, and there isn't anywhere to race a high-quality build, with the exception of RaceRoom, and it seems as though Pau's going to be in that kind of scheme as well. The only place that you really could race was back on like Race 07 and then the ported builds from that. So to actually have it as well, fantastic. I cannot wait for that.
Yeah, I'm excited for Pau. It's one of those nice little niche tracks, isn't it? That you there's a very particular type. It's with Macau, with Pau. They're very particular. I mean, I noticed on one of their preview shots, there were some French words, and they might be able to help you learn some French when it comes out in October. Yeah, I think you're looking forward to that more than anything else, aren't you?
Well, to be fair, actually driving, I mean, I do love myself. I'm a street circuit racer, really. I do love myself chucking my way around some various streets. Anyway, we have been on air long enough, so we'll let you go off and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you very much. I've been Lewis McGlade. Dara Thack has been alongside me, as well as Zach Sweeney. Obviously, broadcast being brought to you by Christo himself, Captain Coffee. Thank you so much for everyone that's joined us. Thank you to our winner, of course, Blankenberg, to the fight that he had with Cody Nikola in what has been an absolutely outstanding race here. The Bathurst 2 hour comes to a close, and we will bid you farewell. Thank you very much, and until next time, bye-bye.